the maximum level expert. She thrives in interstellar riches. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 476 Before the Storm 4. The moment the door was opened, Wen Jiu was still a little unresponsive. She only felt her left shoulder sink, and Chujian approached with a faint minty fragrance. The other person's height was almost 1.9 meters, but she had just reached 1.6 meters. This gap made her feel a little uncomfortable, but Chujian rubbed her neck gently like a large dog acting like a spoiled child. Seeing this, Yuruman pulled him aside. "What are you doing? How old are you, still acting like a spoiled child?" She originally had a lot of sympathy for Chujian, but now seeing that he was almost taking her cabbage, the sympathy in her heart was instantly suppressed by anger. Wen Jiu actually didn't care that much about these physical contacts. When she was a child, she was raised by her senior brothers and sisters. She treated everyone as a brother or sister and never thought about love between men and women. I feel so uncomfortable. Chujian leaned against the wall and slowly slid down to the ground and sat down. "I feel uncomfortable." After he finished speaking, Wen Jiu and Yuruman noticed that his face was flushed at this time, and a thin layer of sweat oozed from his forehead and nose. The two quickly closed the door and went over to check, but saw that the corners of Chujian's eyes began to turn red, and crystal tears kept rolling down. Seeing this, Yuruman first tested the temperature of his forehead with her hand, and then began to investigate his condition. When Jiu began to search in the room, she felt that Chujian would definitely not become like this for no reason. Sure enough, she found that the small animals in the cage also had strange behaviors. Some lay in front of the cage door and kept sticking out their tongues and breathing, while others scratched in the cage as if venting. If it was other small animals like this, she would not find it strange. But she had come to this room twice before, and each time she saw them quiet. And she also asked Wan Nan several times, and the other party said that these animals only looked fierce, but were actually much quieter than other animals. She walked around the room again, and suddenly caught a faint scent of plum blossoms. So when Jiu quickly walked to Yuruman and squatted down and said, "Teacher Yu, it seems that Teacher Lu has been here just now." Although plum blossom perfumes are not uncommon, she has only smelled this kind of fragrance with a faint medicinal smell from Lu Zuiying. And she remembered that last time in the mall, Chujian almost lost control after smelling this fragrance. It seems that this fragrance has an effect on Chujian and those experimental subjects. But she is also an experimental subject, but she has not been affected at all, which is a bit strange. Well, I guessed it. Yuruman found an injection from the Ziji space. I'll give him an injection of tranquilizer first, and then take him back to the hospital when he is a little calmer. Chujian's condition was very unstable at the moment, and she didn't dare to take him out of the shelter rashly. After saying that, she rolled up Chujian's sleeves. The cold white arm of the other party was covered with purple marks, and some raised scars were entangled like thin snakes. This scene made Yuruman and Wen Jiu stunned. They could tell from these scars how much suffering Chujian had experienced before. "Well, I want to drink water." Chujian half closed his eyes in a state of confusion, and had no energy to look at their expressions. Yuruman took a deep breath before starting to inject the injection. After the transparent liquid was fully injected, she pulled out the needle and took it back into the wisdom ring space, and then touched Chujian's head with pity. The other party was still in a trance and confusion. After feeling her gentle touch, he lowered his head obediently and curled up against the wall like a wounded large dog. When Jiu didn't know that Chujian had so many injuries on his body, and she didn't notice it when he was wearing a tattered shirt before. At that time, she was in the surprise of the cat turning into a human, and she was also on guard and alert against Chujian, so naturally she didn't take a close look at his body. When he wakes up a little, we'll take him back to the hospital. Yuruman took her hand back and looked at Wen Jiu. "Are you affected in any way?" Wen Jiu shook his head after hearing her words. I don't feel uncomfortable anywhere, but the animals in the cages seem to be affected as well. After that, she took Yuruman to see the animals. Compared to Chujian, who had calmed down with the sedative, the caged animals were very irritable and impatient. They had just stuck out their tongues and scratched the cages before, but now they began to bark. I'm afraid we need to find professionals for this. Yuruman walked forward bravely and saw that the animals began to bark wildly, even the previously docile and quiet cat. This scene made her frown, not because she hated the barking of these animals, but because she felt that the people who did it were too disgusting. After she explored fearlessly, she opened the light screen panel and dialed a phone. Well, there are 12 suspected experimental subjects in total. Don't make this public, just ask 2 reliable veterinarians to come. While Yuruman was calling someone, Wen Jiu squatted next to Chujian to check on him. After being injected with a sedative, the other party calmed down a lot, and even the blush on his face was much lighter than before. Chujian, are you feeling better? She used her hand to test the other party's temperature again. Don't get into trouble here, at least pay me back first. Before she finished her words, Chujian opened his eyes and looked at her and said, you are such a miser. If I die, will you still chase me for debt? Of course. Wen Jiu smiled with his hands on his face. Since you are better, get up quickly. We are going back to the hospital. Don't expect me and teacher Yu to carry you. After she finished speaking, Chujian lowered his eyes. Okay, I really owe you in my last life. Although he still felt a little hot and frivolous, his mind was much clearer than before. So he stood up shakily, holding onto the wall. Not long after you left, a strange man broke in. He walked in and said he wanted to adopt an animal, but I think he was interrupted by Yuruman when he was halfway through. Isn't the man you are talking about tall and strong, with a circle of light brown beard on his chin, and his eyes are that kind of emerald green, which looks a bit scary? Yes, teacher Yu. Chujian stood up obediently, and he told everything he remembered. Yuruman had already found someone to help, so she closed the light screen panel and listened to his story carefully. So it was Teacher Green who came here? He has the same plum blossom scent as Teacher Lu? Wen Jiu was also listening carefully at the side. She just felt that she was really careless and she was busy delaying Lu Zuoying, but didn't notice the existence of Gore Green. Today's third update has also been delivered, please check it. My lovely little angels, thanks again to the little angels who insist on following, voting and rewarding. Thank you everyone. 030. Chapter 477 A Little Trouble 1. After Chujian told the whole story, Yuruman took him and Wen Jiu out of the shelter. But before they left, Wen Jiu found Wang Nan and gave her some instructions. She said that she had found 2 veterinarians to treat the stray animals and asked them not to let other people enter the room to disturb them. Wang Nan was now obedient to Wen Jiu, so she patted her chest and made a lot of promises. Teacher Yu, are those 2 people standing on the opposite side of you? They went back in the hovercraft, driven by Yuruman. Because it had a fully automatic driving mode, they could chat for a while. Wen Jiu couldn't find the right words to describe it, so he classified Lu Zuoying and Gore Green as opposites. Hearing this, Yuruman answered, while reapplying her lipstick in front of the mirror, more or less, they are from another organization, and have been fighting with Zhuang Ming and me in secret. But judging from their recent actions, they will have to clash in the open sooner or later. Before, Lu Zuoying and Gore Green were only doing things in secret, but they have recently appeared frequently in front of Wen Jiu, and it is unknown what new plan they are preparing. So they are seedling breeders, right? Chujian has been much more sober. Has the previous seedling breeder not been eradicated? Yuruman pursed her lips a few times before answering him. If you could have caught them all at the beginning, do you think you would have needed to flee for so long? Some words don't need to be said too clearly, and smart people can naturally understand them. After the words fell, Chujian fell into silence. Then the 3 of them didn't talk about this topic anymore. After all, there was no point in talking about it. On the way, Yuruman also communicated with her teammates, that is, the 2 veterinarians who were sent to the shelter. They are not just ordinary veterinarians, but also people in New Ruman's camp. Those animals have been confirmed to be experimental subjects after inspection, but whether they can be restored to human form will have to wait until their injuries recover. Ruman told Wen Jiu what she had learned, but she did it mainly to reassure him. It was not until the sky gradually turned red that the three arrived at the 3047 hospital. After Wen Jiu got off the car, Chu Jian wanted to follow him, but saw Ruman turned her head and stared at him and said, "Chu Jian, your identity has a great hidden danger. In other words, you are a time bomb if you continue to stay with Wen Jiu. I know your previous experience was very painful, but you can't implicate others in order to achieve your goals. If you believe me, come to me after Wen Jiu starts school." She felt pity for Chu Jian, but she felt more sorry for Wen Jiu. After all, the two have been together for such a long time, it is impossible to say that there is no affection. After she finished speaking, she got off the car, leaving Chu Jian in the car in silence. "Hey, where's brother Harry?" Wen Jiu walked forward a few steps and found that Chu Jian didn't follow. Is he trying to hide in the car and run away? But within a few seconds, after she finished speaking, Chu Jian came over with a lazy smile. Seeing this, Ruman patted Wen Jiu on the shoulder and said, "I'm going to talk to old Zhu first, and I'll see you in your ward later." "Hey, teacher Yu, wait a minute." Wen Jiu saw that she was about to leave and hurriedly said, "I have a gift for you." She knew that now was not a good time to give a gift, but Ruman came and went in a hurry, and she couldn't find her figure when she was busy, so she thought it would be better to send it out early. Ruman stopped and looked at Wen Jiu, who took out a grey velvet square box from the wisdom ring space. "This is the gem bracelet I bought before. I wonder if you like it." Wen Jiu handed the box over and said, "Then teacher Yu, let's see you later. Chu Jian and I will go upstairs first." After saying that, she took Chu Jian and walked towards the inpatient building. Ruman clenched the box and watched the two of them go away. She felt an unknown warmth flowing in her heart. When the tall and short figures disappeared from her sight, she opened the square box in her hand with a click. She saw a string of gem bracelets with a faint halo, red as blood and black round beads. This color combination was obviously her favorite, and it could also be seen that Wen Jiu had carefully selected it. She carefully put the bracelet on her wrist, and then put the box into the wisdom ring space and turned away. At the same time, on the other side, after Wen Jiu and Chu Jian entered the inpatient building, the first thing they did was to take the elevator to Kyoshishi's ward. The main reason was that Kyoshishi was the most seriously injured among them, so she had to stay in the hospital for more time to rest. "We are back." Wen Jiu was shocked as soon as she opened the door, because in addition to Kyoshishi and Zikingayu, there were 6 burly men in suits standing in the ward. It must be said that this scene reminded her of the movie she had seen in modern times, as if these men in black were about to take out an instrument to erase their memories in the next second. "Sister Jiu, I thought you would be back after I left tonight." Zikingayu ran over happily and introduced the identities of these people very enthusiastically. After his introduction, Wen Jiu and Chu Jian learned that these people were bodyguards hired by the Z family, and each of them was a level 5 superpower person who retired from the military region. "My parents are worried about my safety. Although I said I didn't need it, they insisted that I go out with a bodyguard." Zikingayu sat on the sofa and kept talking, which sounded like a sweet trouble to Wen Jiu. After all, hiring a bodyguard is very expensive. It would be great if she had so much money to hire a bodyguard one day. Once the chatterbox Zikingayu started talking, he never stopped. It was not until his stomach started to growl that he asked, "I'm hungry after talking so much. What delicious food are you going to make tonight, Sister Jiu?" "No, I won't cook tonight. Just drink some nutrient solution." When Jiu finally got the right to speak, "Can your bodyguards go out first? I have something to tell you and Shishi." Everyone was already on the same boat. If she didn't tell her discovery, it would be a bit unethical. Hearing this, Zikingayu put on the attitude of a deputy uncle. "In that case, you guys go out first." He rarely pretended to be arrogant in front of Wen Jiu and others, and he would only do this when facing strangers. After the words fell, these men in black came over and bowed to him, and then strode out of Kaioshishi's ward. But before they completely left, Zikingayu did not forget to remind them, except for doctors and nurses, do not let in other strangers. The first update of the day has been delivered. Thank you to every little angel for your support. 030. Maybe I can ask for some votes? The votes have become less recently. CAC. Chapter 478. A little trouble too. Don't worry, I've asked director An to help me. I must take that damn girl back today, otherwise she will run away again when school starts in a few days. Zhang Mian walked out of the elevator confidently. Before, she had not been able to meet Kaioshishi because of Kaijuan's obstruction. But Kaijuan had to go back to the military area because of the holiday 2 days ago, so now no one can stop her from taking Kaioshishi away. I definitely can't let her go back to school, otherwise she will be like that crazy girl in your family, breaking off relations with me and running to the military academy. Then the money I invested before will be wasted. Zhang Mian said with a contemptuous smile. She and her sister Zhang Qinan have always been at odds with each other. Sure enough, as soon as she mentioned Kaijuan's matter, the other party hung up the phone angrily. But she was not angry because of this. She just felt that her sister was really fragile. She just mentioned a few old things. Why did she get angry with her for such a small matter? And all this was not caused by Zhang Qinan herself. If she had not allowed Kaijuan to go to the preparatory military academy, how could she have ended up with the tragic ending of the mother-daughter relationship? Thinking of this, she quickened her pace. She must take Kaioshishi home today to prevent her from becoming more and more rebellious and difficult to control. She only has one daughter, so she naturally has to keep her to pave the way for her son. Zhang Mian has always thought so, and she also thinks Kaioshishi is ungrateful. There is an easy way to go, but she has to suffer and become a soldier in the military district. Besides, it is much better for a girl to be a soldier in the military district and stay at home, to be a rich wife, go shopping and buy luxury goods every day, and then meet a few good sisters for tea, and don't worry about other things. Zhang Mian also got a new hairstyle before coming, and came to the hospital after dressing up carefully. But it was not quite the same as she imagined. There was a row of people in black standing at the door of Kaioshishi's ward. Kaijuan, this dead girl, actually kept a trick before leaving. She stopped not far away to watch. However, she was not sure that these people were sent by Kaijuan, so she opened the light screen panel and called Director An, whom she knew. However, the other party was still in the conference room at the moment and said that he would come to help her later. As a result, Zhang Mian began to struggle whether to go there. However, the 4 people in the ward did not know all this, and they were still seriously discussing the experimental subjects. This is really scary, and the teacher Lu you mentioned, I have taken her fighting class before. Zikingayu sat on the sofa with a panicked look on her face and shrank to Kaioshishi's side, giving Wen Jiu a feeling that the two of them had swapped genders. However, in the interstellar age, most people no longer have stereotypes about gender, so Chujian and Kaioshishi both looked indifferent. This kind of thinking is quite comfortable for Wen Jiu. After all, what she hates to hear most is what girls should and should not do. You've taken Mr. Green's mecha class. What's so scary about this? She crossed her legs and sat on the sofa. And the point now is not whether you've taken the class or not. I think Jiu is right. We should look for information about Western City first. After saying that, Kaioshishi opened her own light screen panel. She didn't know much about Western City. She would only check the information when she occasionally browsed Zingbo. She searched for keywords in the search box, namely the rampant stray animals in Western City and the recent news in Western City. Chu Jian had no objection to this, but was just thinking about what happened in the shelter. At that time, Gore Green had only left the room for a few seconds when he fell into a state of unconsciousness with a fever and dizziness. If Uruman hadn't injected him with a sedative later, he really didn't know what he would do, and he was very clear about his abilities. If he lost control, he might destroy the shelter. Just as he was thinking, he heard Wen Jiu ask, by the way, I haven't asked you yet. Apart from the last time in the mall, have you ever smelled the fragrance of plum blossoms before? No, and I have never smelled the fragrance you described. Chu Jian answered very confidently. Whether it was when he ran into Lu Zuang in the mall, or when he met Gore Green in the shelter, he had never smelled the so-called fragrance of plum blossoms. Hearing this, it was Wen Jiu's turn to be confused. She remembered that Ziziu could smell it at that time, but why couldn't Chu Jian smell it? It's strange. Although there is news of stray animals overflowing in Zifeng City, all the news looks quite normal. Kyoshi has found a lot of news about Zifeng City, and she also enlarged the light screen panel for the other three to see. So when Jiu didn't think about it anymore, and just looked at the news carefully. When they were discussing the news, based on Zifeng City, they heard a sharp female voice that was a bit harsh. I'm the patient's mother, you know. What's your intention in stopping me? Why don't a group of strangers let me see my daughter? If anything happens to my daughter, I'll make you pay for it. Kyoshi was very familiar with Zhang Mian's voice. She took a deep breath and jumped off the sofa, ready to face this long-standing trouble. However, as soon as she put on her slippers, she was stopped by Ziqingyu. The other party looked at her confidently and said, "You are still recuperating. The doctor said that patients should keep a good mood, so let me deal with this kind of thing." Ziqingyu walked towards the door with a swagger. The remaining three knew what he wanted to do as soon as they saw his posture. "I'd better go and take a look." Kyoshi said as she was about to walk to the door, but she was stopped again before she took 2 steps. What she didn't expect was that the person who stopped her was Wen Jiu. Just let the young master show his desire to perform. I'm really afraid that he will get sick after suppressing it for so long. Anyway, it doesn't matter who solves the trouble outside, and you are a patient and should have a good rest. Wen Jiu pulled Kyoshi and talked for a long time, and Chu Jian beside him couldn't help but smile. They could all see what Ziqingyu was thinking, but only Kyoshi was still in a state of confusion. After the words fell, Kyoshi felt that what she said made sense, so she sat down again and continued to look for news. At this time, Ziqingyu had already opened the door. He raised his chin slightly and said with contempt, "Who is making a lot of noise outside and disturbing this young master's peace?" Zhang Mian outside the door didn't expect that the person coming out would be Ziqingyu. She was stunned and didn't know how to answer for a while. Today's second update has been delivered. Please check it out. Little Angels. 030. I slightly modified the small bug in the previous article. I don't know if the little angels can see it. HEHEHE equals W equals. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 479, Changing Planet 1. Ziqingyu only glanced at her and waved his hand, saying, "Didn't this young master say not to let strangers disturb us? You should quickly deal with this aunt for this young master, and don't let her make noise and disturb this young master's peace." After the words fell, the black-clothed men who were originally standing motionless immediately surrounded Zhang Mian. "You and your Z family can't bully others by taking advantage of your power. I'm Kyoshi's mother. What qualifications do you have to forbid me to see her?" This scene made Zhang Mian very scared, and she only regretted that she didn't bring bodyguards today. Although the Kyo family is not as rich and powerful as the Z family, it is still no problem to hire a few superpowers as bodyguards. But she thought that it would be best to reason with Kyoshi when she came to the hospital today, so she didn't bring her personal bodyguard. Ziqingyu was stunned when he heard this. It was the first time he was accused of bullying others by taking advantage of his power. So he leaned against the door frame and said with disdain, "I'm bullying others, so what? If you are not convinced, you can complain to my parents. You Z family are too unreasonable." Zhang Mian was pressed step by these men in black and could only keep walking backwards. She didn't dare to say anything harsh to Ziqingyu. After all, whether it was the big Kao family or the small Kao family, or even the assets of the two families combined, they could not be compared with the Z family. Therefore, she could only yell and step back, for fear that Zikingai would let those men in black take ruthless action against her. But from a certain point of view, Zikingai attaches so much importance to Kaioshishi that she even comes to guard her when she is sick. That means her plan is expected to be realized. If Kaioshishi really marries into the Z family, then she won't have to worry about Kao Mingming's future. They had taken Kao Mingming to do a supernatural test before, but unfortunately, their son was just an ordinary person, but their daughter, who was supposed to be a stepping stone, had supernatural powers. This matter has always made her very uncomfortable. You know, it is difficult for ordinary people to achieve great things in this era. If you want to have a better life, you have to be a supernatural person. Although their Kao family lives a life of luxury, it is nothing in the circle of rich people on planet 3047. And what she hates most is that others say that their family is an Avo-rish, and there is nothing else except the inheritance left by old Kao after his death. Auntie, you are right, I'm unreasonable. Zikingai was too lazy to reason with Zhang Mian. He was originally a spoiled little bully at home. If he hadn't been beaten by Wen Jiu later, he would not be the kind of person who allows himself to be ordered around. After he finished speaking, he was about to close the door, but he didn't expect Zhang Mian to suddenly shout, "Help! Someone is trying to rob me." The other parties shouting made the doors of the other wards open. Fortunately, those people were just standing at the door and watching curiously. "Take her away quickly, it's really embarrassing." Zikingai stood at the door with her arms folded. "Don't watch the fun. She is a bad person who came to harass my friend." He thought Zhang Mian would at least take care of her image, but it turned out that the other party was a shrew who loved to make a lot of noise. After the words fell, the others retreated after a few glances. It was not because they listened to Zikingai's words, but because those men in black looked really scary. Most of the people who came to the 3047 hospital were civilians, so they were unwilling to take the initiative to cause trouble. Seeing this, Zhang Mian wanted to continue shouting, but was covered by the person behind her. "Auntie, I see you haven't been sleeping well lately. How about I prescribe you a bottle of sleeping pills?" Zhu Wangming's hands were a little cold, and there was a hint of threat in his words, which made Zhang Mian shiver. But she still managed to speak vaguely. "You and me. I'm An's friend." "Oh. So you are Director An's friend." Zhu Wangming let her go instantly, and turned to look at Director An behind him coldly. "Since she is your friend, take her away quickly, and don't let her disturb the patient's rest here." Hearing this, Director An hurriedly stepped forward, and grabbed Zhang Mian. Although they were both directors, the former was the director of the entire 3047 hospital, and the latter was just the director of a department. Zhang Mian was already frightened by these men in black, and she was even more panicked by Zhu Wangming's fright. Therefore, when Director An came to pull her, she followed him stupidly, not even daring to say a word. After she was pulled into the elevator at the end of the corridor, Zhu Wangming regained his usual smile and said, "Let's go, old you. Do you think my speed in solving problems is good?" Normally, Yu Ruman had no intention of arguing with him, and walked straight to Zikingai. "Is Wen Jiu in there too?" Zikingai was stunned when he suddenly met his teacher, but he quickly came to his senses and made way inside, and Brother Heli is also there. After he finished speaking, he realized that he seemed to have let the cat out of the bag. Yu Ruman didn't seem to know about Chujian. He thought he was observing the other person's expression without leaving a trace. Brother Heli is Jiu's distant relative. After he finished speaking, Yu Ruman couldn't help but chuckle and said, "I know, let's talk about it after we go in." The men in black stood back at the door sensibly. They could all see that the two men knew their young master, so they didn't stop them outside. Zhu Wangming scanned the room seriously, then stepped into the ward, closed the door and commented, "The bodyguards that Zio's family hired are all good. They are all level 5 superpowers from the military region." Dr. Zhu, how did you see that? Zikingai didn't expect that the other party could see it at a glance. Some characteristics are easy to identify. You can tell by the way they stand, and the expression, when they look at people. Before Zhuang Ming finished speaking, he was interrupted by Yu Rumen with a glance. They came here not to chat, but to have a good communication with these children. Yu Rumen is not a person who likes to beat around the bush. Because there are already 4 people sitting on the sofa, it's a bit crowded, so she moved a chair over and sat down casually and said, "Have you ever considered leaving the college?" Hearing this, Wen Jiu and the other 4 were a little stunned for a while. "Teacher you won't let me drop out of school just because I lose my temper, right?" Ziqingai was the first to speak. Yu Rumen's solemn expression suddenly broke after hearing his words. "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone about your temper. And I don't want you to drop out of school, I just want you to go to another place to study." After saying that, it was Kyoshi who spoke this time. She asked the question in her heart, change place. To another college or another planet? Today's third update has also been delivered. Please check it out. My lovely little angels, thank you again for your support and love 030. Chapter 480. Change planet 2. To put it simply, it means changing the school and living on a different planet. Yu Rumen told the idea that she had communicated with the upper level. The main reason was that the federal headquarters would most likely restart the college competition, so the seedling breeders were ready to move again. Although the previous experimental plan was forced to terminate, it did not mean that the remaining people could not restart. In addition to Chu Jian, who had not been investigated by those people, the remaining 3 people, Wen Jiu, had already been targeted by them. Therefore, Yu Rumen proposed to the upper level that Wen Jiu and others should be sent away from planet 3047 before those people were completely dealt with. But sending all the targeted students away will not help. Wen Jiu hit the nail on the head. She felt that Yu Rumen's idea was good, but it could not solve the problem from the root. Sending them away could temporarily avoid them for a while, but in fact, those problems could not be solved. Moreover, she learned from Chu Jian's previous narration that the seedling breeding plan was not only carried out on planet 3047, so even if they went to other planets, they might not be able to seek safety. "This is just our initial plan." Yu Rumen couldn't help but sigh. The enemy is in the dark, while we are in the light, and they have already targeted you guys. She knew in her heart that this plan was not perfect, but it was the best plan she could think of at the moment. They have not been sitting there waiting for death all these years. Most of the minions in the 3047 Academy have been cleared out, and they have also placed their own people in various places. However, there are countless dignitaries who participated in the seedling cultivation plan. The federal headquarters only arrested the main perpetrators at that time, and there are still many remaining participants who have not been cleared out. Therefore, there will be certain resistance to their expansion of power and the implementation of the plan. Wen Jiu actually couldn't understand why these people had to catch the students to harm them. And as far as she knew, the number of superpowers has always been small, which can be said to be several times less than that of ordinary people in the Interstellar. Those so-called seedling masters harmed superpowers so much, why didn't other people react at all to this? She spoke out her doubts, and Yu Rumen slowly answered her. "You also know that in addition to our planet 3047, there are many other planets and galaxies in the interstellar space. Except for the garbage planets and death planets that cannot survive, there are at least 1 billion people living on the other planets. Even if the number of superpowers is rare, it is not that rare, otherwise where do so many soldiers in the military district come from?" To put it bluntly, the total number of superpowers is not small, and it is difficult for those students to be captured to attract other people's attention. Moreover, the seedling program can cultivate more outstanding superpowers. For low-level planets with scarce educational resources, using a group of students who are unknown how far they can grow, in exchange for 1 or 2 superpowers who will definitely reach level 5. This is simply a sure-win deal. What's more, it has always been a very difficult thing for superpowers to advance, especially after superpowers reach level 5. Do we really have to live on another planet? But I can't bear to leave my parents. Ziqingai has the deepest relationship with her parents among the people present. Although Chu Jian also has deep feelings for his grandfather, he cannot meet him because of his identity as a wanted criminal, and it is easier for him to accept that he has been wandering outside for a long time without seeing him. Kyoshi was heartbroken by her parents. If she wants to go back, it would be like the Virgin Mary coming to the world. As for Wen Jiu, she doesn't have parents at all, so how could she feel reluctant to leave? She has long been accustomed to living alone. Hearing this, Ruman nodded first and then said, in fact, it's okay for you not to leave, Master Z. Your parents will definitely protect you, but Wen Jiu is helpless here. Orphans who are helpless or people without background are the easiest to be targeted and taken away by those nursery masters. But before she finished her words, Zikingayu interrupted her and said, Teacher you are wrong. How can my sister Jiu be helpless? She has you, me, and everyone else. She is not helpless. After the words fell, Wen Jiu, who was suddenly called, felt warm in her heart. She really didn't expect Zikingayu to say that. Our little Z classmate is right. Ruman's eyebrows and eyes also relaxed, but some things are not as simple as you think. But now we are just discussing it, and we haven't decided to implement this plan. After all, this plan is not perfect yet, and they still have to make some supplements and preparations. After listening to it, Wen Jiu fell into deep thought at first, but she soon regained her usual liveliness and said, I'm a little hungry, after chatting for so long. Teacher you, do you want to eat anything? As soon as she finished her words, Zikingayu and Kyoshi started to make a fuss. Gioji, I want to eat egg tarts. I also want to eat Chyankan potatoes. Shut up. Jiu didn't ask you what you want to eat. The two of them started arguing, and the others couldn't help but smile. Seeing this, Wen Jiu looked at Chujian and said, come with me to the supermarket outside to buy some vegetables. Teacher you rarely has time to stay for a while, so I'll cook a few more dishes for a good meal. She knew that Ruman and Zhu Wangming still had things to deal with, so she naturally wouldn't ask them to help her buy vegetables. And there was a small supermarket near the hospital, so she and Chu Jian could just buy some vegetables. Then Zhao Wen, you two should be careful when you go out, and I'll take your teacher you back to the office. Zhu Wangming didn't expect Wen Jiu to not ask him to do it. However, he and Ruman still had to continue discussing with the organization, and they really didn't have much time to help each other go out to buy vegetables. Hearing this, Ruman just smiled and said, then I have to eat 2 more bowls of rice tonight. She didn't have a good rest during the entire holiday, and she was always busy. Every time she saw Wen Jiu before, he came and left in a hurry. It was a rare opportunity to stay with him for a while longer. So she and Zhu Wangming left the ward first. Not long after the two of them left, Wen Jiu assigned a task to Zikingayu, and then she went to the small supermarket with Chu Jian. It's hard to imagine that the young master of the Z family listens to you so much. Chu Jian has always known about the existence of the Z family, so every time he saw Zikingayu obeying Wen Jiu's words, he would feel a little shocked. Then don't you have to listen to me too? Wen Jiu wandered around the small supermarket for a while. Auntie, please pack this piece of Gilu beast liver for me. After the words fell, the enthusiastic butcher auntie immediately weighed the big and red liver. The first update of today has been successfully delivered. Please check it out, my lovely little angels. Thank you all for your support again. Today I finally reached 1 million words. Congratulations to myself equals W equals. PS. I will try my best during the day to see if I can find time to write more chapters. I will try my best. Poke my fingers cack. Chapter 481 Stir-fried pork liver and sweet and sour fish 1. Why would you buy the liver of a Gilu beast to cook? I thought that teacher you has no grudge against you. On the way back from buying vegetables, Chu Jian kept muttering. You don't cook. Why are you talking so much? If you don't want to eat, don't eat. Wen Jiu had been craving for stir-fried pork liver for a long time, but it was rare for her to see pork liver that was good and fresh. Although Gilu beasts and pigs are not the same kind of creatures, they are already assumed to be the same kind in her eyes. Hearing this, Chu Jian decisively shut up and said no more. The two of them each carried a bag back to the hospital, and then took the elevator and rushed straight to the small kitchen. There were quite a lot of medical staff coming to cook at this time, so Wen Jiu sent Zikingayu, who had washed the dishes, back, leaving Chu Jian here to help him deal with the ingredients. I don't know how to cut vegetables. You might as well let me go back and rest. Chu Jian muttered while peeling garlic. He thought he would be the one to be sent away. Wen Jiu on the other side was washing the pig liver. You can just do push-ups and squats when you go back. It's better to exercise in the kitchen than anywhere else. Although Ziqingaiu was better at helping in the kitchen, she didn't want to create opportunities for her friends, so she couldn't leave Ziqingaiu here to help. Besides, she didn't need any help for the dishes she was going to make tonight. She could handle all the ingredients by herself. She put the washed pig liver on the chopping board, then picked up a sharp kitchen knife and started cutting it quickly. Stir-fried pig liver is a difficult dish. If you want it to be tender enough, you need to cut the pig liver thinly enough, and you need to control the heat and the time it stays in the pot when you stir fry it. Even the amount of oil in the pot must be strictly controlled. Too much oil will make it greasy, and too little oil will affect the temperature in the pot. The low temperature will affect the taste of the pig liver, so it is quite difficult to stir fry tender pig liver. Xiao Wen, are you going to do a live broadcast tonight? Xiao Li and Dr. Zhao happened to come to the kitchen to cook dinner. When they saw Wen Jiu here, they immediately came over. Wen Jiu had just put the cut pork liver into the basin. After the pork liver was cut, it needed to be washed several times until all the blood in the liver was drained out, so that it would not have a bloody smell when eaten. After hearing what the two said, she smiled and replied, "No live broadcast tonight, just make a few dishes for dinner." After the words fell, Xiao Li and Dr. Zhao both showed sad expressions. Since they had eaten the food made by Wen Jiu, they thought about it day and night and looked forward to the other party doing a live broadcast every day so that they could have a good meal. "Okay, then we won't bother you." The two were not the kind of people who like to make trouble unreasonably. After learning that Wen Jiu would not do a live broadcast, they walked away. Seeing this, Wen Jiu didn't say much, just asked Chu Jian to peel garlic faster. She really couldn't understand why the other party felt like he was being tortured when peeling garlic was such a simple thing. After being urged, she took the liver out of the basin, and then she began to squeeze the water out of the liver. If there is too much water in the liver, it will not be easy to taste when marinated later, and it will lose its pulp when fried in the pan. I really can't bear to part with her. That can't be helped, and there is nothing we can do. Wen Jiu put the liver that had been squeezed clean into the basin and was about to start seasoning and marinating when she heard Xiao Li and Dr. Zhao talking in a low voice. She was a little confused by their conversation, but she had to hurry up to cook, so she forced herself to concentrate and avoid hearing other people's gossip. She used to think that the clairvoyance and the wind hearing were very cool, but now that she has half of the wind hearing, she just feels irritated. After marinating the liver, Wen Jiu began to prepare the yuhu fish. She had used this fish to make squirrel mandarin fish before, but tonight she planned to make sweet and sour fish. The method of making sweet and sour fish is simpler than squirrel mandarin fish, so she can process the ingredients much faster. Here, the garlic is peeled. Chu Jian came over with a bowl full of garlic. "What do you want so much garlic for? Weren't 3 or 4 enough before?" Wen Jiu replied, while mixing the sweet and sour sauce, "Why didn't I realize you were so talkative before? You're almost catching up with Ziqingaiu. Next time, I'll have a chatterbox competition between the two of you and see who can win. TSK, is it not okay for me to ask out of curiosity?" Chu Jian had nothing to do now, so he stood beside Wen Jiu and watched her process the ingredients. The other party's movements were very neat, and her serious and focused look was like a shining pearl. Moreover, children in their teens grow up very fast. He remembered that when he first met Wen Jiu, he was still a little kid of about 1.5 meters. It hasn't been long since then, and he has jumped to 1.6 meters. I don't know how tall Wen Jiu will grow in the future, but he shouldn't be taller than his brother. Thinking of this, Chu Jian couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. After spending several days and nights together like a family, he unconsciously regarded her as his sister. However, past experiences taught him not to trust anyone easily. And it's not that he has never met someone who is so good to him, but that person gave him a painful and unforgettable lesson. "Move aside, you're blocking me from cooking." Chujayan almost fell into autism and depression, but saw the thin girl in front of him with disgust. If you want to be in a daze, you can go outside. This kitchen is so small, don't block me. Hearing this, he raised the corner of his mouth and touched the other's head. Okay, then I'll wait for you outside. This picture of brother and sister should have made people feel very warm, but as a sister, when Jiu picked up a kitchen knife and pointed it at Chujayan, she tried her best to restrain her anger and gritted her teeth and said, "You have a garlic smell on your hands, and you touch my head. Do you know that I just washed my hair last night?" I did it on purpose. Chujayan stuck out his tongue and ran out the door, but he bumped into the wall of people. Hiss, my dinner is gone. Dr. Zhao, who was accidentally injured, looked at the broken bowl with a sad face. He had finally fried a carrot that was edible, but before he could take a bite, he collided with someone and fell to the ground. The sound of the bowl breaking was particularly loud, and when Jiu couldn't help but look over. Seeing this, she hurried to help Chujayan out and said, "Dr. Zhao, my brother's brain is a little stupid, don't mind. I will share some of the dishes with you later. Can you wait outside for a while?" Dr. Zhao, who was originally a little sad, instantly cheered up after hearing this. "Really? Then I don't want this fried carrot." Today's second update is also delivered. Thanks again to every little angel for their support. Love you. 030. Chapter 482 Stir-fried pork liver and sweet and sour fish 2. When Jiu and Chujayan were walking side by side in the corridor, the former holding a thermos bucket and the latter holding 2 dishes. "Why didn't you apologize for bumping into Dr. Zhao just now? I don't like him and don't want to apologize." Just now, Chujayan accidentally bumped into Dr. Zhao at the door and knocked over the fried carrots that the other party had finally prepared. Although when Jiu spoke up to help him out, he just remained silent and didn't apologize, and didn't even look at Dr. Zhao. "You have only met him a few times. How can you not like him?" Hearing this, Wen Jiu just felt very strange. She remembered that Chujayan and Dr. Zhao didn't have much contact, so how could he talk about whether he liked him or not? "I don't know, a kind of intuition." Chujayan's expression was very indifferent. "Anyway, I don't like him, and that nursely, so I don't want to apologize to him." He didn't know why he felt disgusted when he saw Dr. Zhao and Xiaoli. Just like seeing Lu Zuang and Gore Green, that kind of disgust arose from his heart. After that, when Jiu did not ask any more questions. "Forget it, I don't want to bother with you. Just don't cause trouble for me. I don't have the money to pay you compensation." She temporarily lost interest in studying Chujayan's heart because she already knew a lot about his affairs and psychology. The two walked all the way back to Kaoshish's ward. It happened that Yu Ruman and Zhu Wangming had finished their work at this time. "Oh, I was just about to send a message to Teacher Yu, but I didn't expect you to come back together." Kaoshishi came over obediently to receive the dishes and helped Wen Jiu and Chujayan to set the bowls and plates. Seeing this, Zikingayu, who was standing next to them, also hurried over to help. This lively scene made Yu Ruman relax a lot, and her originally cold eyebrows softened at this moment. Seeing this, Zhu Wangming couldn't help but lower his voice and said, "I told you, these kids are optimistic. Don't keep putting pressure on yourself. Those things can be solved sooner or later." "I hope so. I just hope that when school starts in 2 days, when Jiu and the other 2 kids can all go to school smoothly." Yu Ruman wanted to pinch her brows, but she suddenly remembered that she had put on delicate makeup, so she moved her raised hand behind Zhu Wangming and pinched him. "Hiss, can you be gentler?" Zhu Wangming, who was suddenly pinched, didn't dare to say much and could only restrain himself from complaining in a low voice. When Jiu and the other 4 who were setting up the dishes didn't notice the movement here and were even talking about their plans after school started. Kaoshishi was worried about her lack of training. "After school starts, I will reduce the time for rest and fun. I want to strive to upgrade my supernatural power before the end of the 2nd semester. Then you have to combine work and rest, otherwise you will be exhausted." Zikingayu put the stir-fried seasonal vegetables on the top of the thermos bucket on the table, and then found a spoon to start dividing the rice into bowls. When Jiu agreed with this, She felt that studying was studying, and rest was still necessary. No more talking, let's eat first. After setting the tableau, she invited everyone to sit down and eat. Because the sofa in the ward was short and could only seat 4 people, Wen Jiu and Chu Jian both sat cross-legged on the floor to eat. Neither of them was a particular person. For them, there was no difference between eating on the floor and eating on the sofa. Wen Jiu was just about to pick up the stir-fried pork liver he wanted to eat when he saw Chu Jian pick up several slices with one chopstick and leave. She couldn't help but say sarcastically, "Some people say they don't want to eat pig liver. Why are they eating it so enthusiastically now?" I didn't say I didn't eat it. I just asked casually at that time. Okay. Chu Jian glanced at her, then picked up a piece of pig liver and ate it. After the tender and delicious pig liver was stir-fried with chili peppers, it was full of spicy flavor. He was almost choked by the spiciness and could only dig a few mouthfuls of rice in embarrassment. But after the spiciness, a salty fragrance remained on the tip of his tongue, as if tempting him to continue attacking the pig liver. And he originally thought that this liver would taste fishy. After all, he had never seen anyone use the liver of Gillubeast to cook before. In his impression, these Gillubeast offal were bought by others to feed pets, but he didn't expect that they would be so delicious after being made into dishes. The pig liver is tender and not as greasy as meat. After being stir-fried, it is not old at all, but has a burnt aroma left by the flames. The peppers and onions and the ingredients blend the flavor, adding a hint of spiciness and spicy aroma to the liver, which is both satisfying and delicious. In addition to the spicy and fragrant stir-fried pork liver, another sweet and sour fish is also very popular. Wen Jiu's sweet and sour fish is crispy on the outside and tender on the inside, with a perfect combination of crispy and tender, and topped with a sweet and sour sauce. Every bite is delicious and appetizing. The sweetness and sourness of the sauce are just right, and it goes as well with rice as the stir-fried pork liver. This crispy yet tender taste fascinated Yu Rumen, and she picked up the fish of the sweet and sour fish one bite after another. The other people did not let her go, and they all kept eating their favorite dishes. "This is the last piece of pork liver. Zikingayu, put it down to me." I won't give in to you when it comes to eating." Kyoshi and Zikingayu were the first to quarrel. The others were already accustomed to their quarrels, so they just ate and watched the show. Wen Jiu didn't know why she didn't have much appetite tonight. She only ate a few bites of pork liver and put down her chopsticks. At first, Yu Rumen asked a few questions when she saw her like this, but after getting her answer that she was fine, she just ate her meal. Jiu, look at Zikingayu, she won't even give in to me when eating. Kyoshi felt that it would be difficult for her to grab it by force, so she simply turned around and asked Wen Jiu for help. Seeing this, Zikingayu directly put the liver into her bowl. "I was just joking with you, and you actually asked Jiuji for help. Okay, at worst, we can do it again tomorrow." Wen Jiu felt like he was coaxing a child. "No, it seems that we will be discharged tomorrow, so let's do it after we go home tomorrow." At this point, Zhu Wangming put down his bowl and chopsticks and responded, "Yes, you 3 can be discharged tomorrow. Although I suggest that Shishi stay in the hospital for another 2 days for observation, it is the same for her to go home and rest." Upon hearing the news that she could be discharged from the hospital, Kyoshi and Zikingayu stopped arguing. The two of them talked happily and discussed that they would have a good time after being discharged from the hospital. At the end of the meal, Yu Rumen and Zhu Wangming took the initiative to take over the work of cleaning up and washing dishes. After the two of them cleaned up the dirty dishes, they left the ward and met an acquaintance when they were about to turn the corner in the corridor. "Good evening, Dr. Zhu and Miss Yu." Dr. Zhao held an empty bowl in his hand, but Zhao Li standing next to him did not dare to raise his head. Seeing this, Zhu Wang smiled knowingly and left with Yu Rumen. After the two of them entered the elevator, he explained in a low voice, Zhao Li and Zhao Zhao were classmates when they were in the military academy. Later, they separated for a while when they were studying in the military academy and finally met here again. He said this originally to hint at Yu Rumen, but he didn't expect the other party to just say solemnly, "I haven't met that Dr. Zhao. How did he know my last name is Yu?" This is the third update of the day. The little author here bows deeply to the little angels. Thank you very much for your company and support. The little author will continue to work hard and move forward. 030. Chapter 483 Xiao Zhao and Xiao Li 1. After Yu Rumen finished speaking, Zhu Wangming's expression also became alert. He always keeps a distance from other people. Even if it is his chosen subordinates like Dr. Zhao and Xiao Li, he will not mention his personal affairs to them. Although everyone is in the same organization, the tasks of the branch that Yu Rumen belongs to are completely different from the branch and tasks on his side. He can get together with Yu Rumen only because of his thick skin. In order to prevent traitors from appearing, the organization has specially divided the members into many branches, and each branch is responsible for a region to carry out tasks. Unless there is a necessary situation that requires contact, most people don't know who their teammates are at other times. In other words, Dr. Zhao and Xiao Li are completely unaware of Yu Rumen's existence. Although the former came to work in the hospital earlier, he has never had any task connection with Yu Rumen. The latter has only been in the hospital for less than half a year, so it is even more impossible for him to know Yu Rumen's last name. Do you suspect that there is something wrong with him? Zhu Wangming pondered with a serious expression. I have the background information of Xiao Zhao and Xiao Li. You also know how strict the organization is in selecting people. I think all the information can be falsified, and the organization's vision in selecting people is not very good. Yu Rumen interrupted him directly and expressed her thoughts. Hearing this, Zhu Wangming couldn't help but fall into deep thought again. Because what she said was right, all the information could be falsified, and even if it was investigated, it might not be possible to find the problem. And such a thing happened in the organization before. A traitor from the opposing organization mixed in with false information and betrayed after gaining the trust of the core members, almost causing collective trouble for the people in the organization. So he took a deep breath and said, I will pay attention to their movements. I will send you the information later. If there is any problem, you can come to me at any time. I hope that the previous situation will not happen again. Otherwise the organization will have to carry out another wave of cleansing. Zhu Wangming's voice had just fallen, and the elevator they were riding in opened. Hey, Xiao Zhu. It's so late, and you haven't finished. Get off work yet? I remember you were on the early shift today. A smiling old man stood outside the elevator door. Although he had a head full of white hair, he was energetic, and the small glasses on his nose made him look more elegant. Seeing this, Zhu Wangming bowed politely and said, Good evening, Vice President Liu. I'm just about to go back to the office to pack up and get off work. The person outside was Liu Hin, the Vice President of the 3047 hospital. He was also a member of their organization and the head of the branch here. Okay, then you go back and have a good rest tonight. Liu Hin was always easygoing. Is this Miss Yu next to you? He was considered a core member of the organization, and he had a good relationship with Huang Qiumui on weekdays, so he naturally knew about Yu Rumen's existence. Although Yu Rumen had not yet reached the position of head of the branch, she was already one of Huang Qiumui's most loyal generals. Hello, Vice President Liu. Yu Rumen greeted very politely. Hearing this, Liu Hin just smiled and urged them to leave. How can I go upstairs to the office if you two occupy the elevator? As soon as the voice fell, Yu Rumen and Zhu Wangming hurried out. Both of them kept a polite smile and turned to leave until the elevator door closed. They were supposed to go to the kitchen to wash the dishes, but Yu Rumen pulled Zhu Wangming's sleeve and turned into a corner where no one cared. She looked out for a moment and then confirmed that there was no one around and there was no surveillance here before asking, Is Vice Dean Liu from the Liu family? Yes, didn't you know before? Zhu Wangming just felt a little confused. It is impossible for Yu Rumen not to know about this kind of thing. Huang Qiumui has always regarded her as a confidant. I've heard of it, but don't know much about it. Yu Rumen's expression became serious again. Hasn't the Liu family always been in league with the White family? How did their people get into the organization? Can you change your posture first, and I'll talk about it? Zhu Wangming was standing close to the wall at this time, while Yu Rumen supported his ear with one hand, which looked like he was being pushed against the wall by the other party. He felt his ears were burning. and he could only move his eyes down to the dirty dishes he was holding. After that, Ruman took a few steps back with disgust. We have known each other for so many years. What's there to be shy about? I'm just annoyed that the grease on your bowls and plates almost got on me. Ahem. Let's not talk about this for now. Zhu Wangming coughed a few times and put the bowls and plates into the Ziji space. Deputy Dean Liu was indeed a member of the Liu family before, but his philosophy was not in line with the Liu family, so he left the Liu family a few years ago. Hearing this, Ruman nodded and replied, well, I have heard Dean Huang mention it. I just feel a little confused. Can he really help us fight against the Liu family? It is not easy to leave the family, especially for big families like the Z family, the Liu family and the White family. What's more, after leaving, there are still relatives left in the family. It is difficult to completely cut off family ties, let alone help others deal with your relatives. The person who can become the head of the branch must not be a simple person. And you also know that the organization's audit has always been strict. The higher-ups must have seriously investigated and audited Vice Dean Liu. Zhu Wangming actually didn't care about many people. The reason why he trusted Vice Dean Liu so much was mainly because he had helped him before. Although he used a special method to leave the 3rd military region at the beginning, he was still found after arriving at planet 3047. Fortunately, he had already entered the 3047 hospital at that time and successfully hid himself with the help of Vice Dean Liu, so he escaped the search of those people from the 3rd military region. What he said made sense, so Ruman was not as vigilant as before. Forget it, let's go. She pinched his waist again. Zhu Wangming, you have gained weight. Don't stay in the laboratory all day to make medicine. You should still insist on training. After saying that, Zhu Wangming's face flushed again. How is it possible? I train every day. If you say so, then it is. Hurry back to the kitchen to wash the dishes. Ruman ignored him and just pushed him out to let him lead the way. At this time, on the other side, Liu Hin walked out of the elevator and said hello to Dr. Zhao and Xiaoli, then opened the light screen panel and called Huang Qiumi. Your subordinate Xiaoli is very vigilant, and she is a good girl. Huang Qiumi didn't know what she was busy with, so she only responded to him vaguely. He hung up the phone after a few more words, and then walked towards the dean's office humming a little song happily. The first update of today has been delivered. Thank you little angels for your support. 030. Chapter 484. Zhao and Xiaoli 2. There was no light on in Wen Jiu's ward. The silvery grey of the moon fell on the ground and flowed, dispelling some of the dimness in the room, leaving enough light to see things clearly. She lay on the bed and poked at the light screen panel boredly. The faint halo made her face small and white, much more delicate and beautiful than when she first came to this world. But she didn't care about her appearance. After all, you can't live in this world just by relying on your face. And when she was in the garbage dump before, being too beautiful would bring trouble. Sure enough, people can't do bad things, otherwise there will be retribution sooner or later. Wen Jiu muttered to herself while browsing the star blog. She had returned to the ward after eating earlier and didn't stay with Kao Shishi for long. Chu Jian also went back to his ward very tactfully, leaving only Ziking Gaiu who wanted to stay with Kao Shishi for a while. It's come to this point, and you're still biting me. What's the point of this? She doubled the size of the light screen panel to make it easier for her to continue browsing the star blog. I thought the matter with Leo Zhu had been resolved, but I didn't expect that the other party was still making rumors and making trouble. It would be fine if the smear campaign was successful, but the live broadcast of their park was edited and posted on Xingbo, and Leo Zhu's marketing and water army were too many, which made many people dissatisfied. Happy bubbles. Why are there still people brushing Gongzi Farke to copy Leo Zhu? Isn't the result of winning with a perfect score enough to slap his face? Be polite to others. I ordered snowflake crisps after watching the live broadcast at noon. I have to say that the taste is beyond my imagination. Compared with ice and snow crisps, it is simply delicious. Oh wow. Although I didn't buy snowflake crisps, I think ice and snow crisps are okay. Crown Food is an old brand, and I have always bought its products with my eyes closed. Strawberry milk, brother above. Then I think you really should try snowflake crisps. It is definitely countless times more delicious than ice and snow crisps. If it doesn't taste good, you can chop me with a knife. In addition to these comments that were obviously made by passers-by, the money fans and the pig fans were still arguing fiercely on Zingbo. Thank you all for supporting our fortune sister. This money fan is organizing a lucky draw event here. Everyone remember to forward and comment to participate in the lucky draw. Are all money fans so shabby? You have the nerve to put 5 boxes of snowflake crisps up for a lucky draw. I will directly organize an event to draw 100,000 star coins for everyone. Just forward Leo ZHU's latest video to participate. When Jiu saw this and realized that Leo ZHU had actually posted a new video, so she found Leo ZHU's Zingbo, and when she opened it, there was a clarification video. Hello, dear viewers. Sorry to bother you again. Actually, I should have responded to this matter a long time ago, but I didn't say it because I was worried that everyone would think too much. I didn't expect that it would cause so much trouble. And I think the matter between me and that person is a small matter. It's a big deal to disturb the mood of the audience. What Leo ZHU said was quite reasonable, but if you think about it carefully, you can find the content in it. Isn't this just implying that she has caused trouble to the other party? It's as if all this was caused by her. Everyone is doing live broadcasts, and it's normal for the topics to collide. After all, everyone has to make a living. It's normal to take advantage of whoever is popular. And those recipes, as food anchors, they must check the recipes. Sometimes it's really common to find the same recipe book and make the same food. The more Wen Jiu watched this video, the funnier he found it. Leo ZHU attributed all those things to coincidence, as if the other party had never watched her live broadcast or learned the recipe she posted. As for the ice and snow crisp, Crown Food contacted me a long time ago and said they wanted to make a co-branded food. But everyone knows that I'm very cautious about food, and I will never easily agree to cooperate just to make a lot of money. So I talked to the person in charge of Crown Food for a long time, and I agreed to launch the co-branded cooperation only after they met my requirements and conditions. As Leo ZHU said this, he also showed the electronic panel, which was full of chat records between him and the person in charge. This not only shows his seriousness and responsibility as a host, but also shows the timeline of the initial cooperation. After his video was released, the comments below suddenly changed direction. Poor patrols, poor. It seems that Leo ZHU is quite miserable. He has been being hyped by the little host. Post it boy. I think it is normal for live broadcasts and videos to have the same subject matter, and there is no plagiarism in recipes. Is it because I made tomato scrambled eggs later, and then that person also made it? Is it that I plagiarized? Some of the comments below are water army, and some are passers-by who were led astray by them. Wen Jiu was not moved at all. After reading all this, and even wanted to laugh, she first sent a message to Ming Yihan, and then began to edit her own Zingbo. However, she received a push from Zingbo when she was halfway through editing. Breaking. Wu Yao Food sued Crown Food in federal court. Surprise. Star Entertainment's new star Zuan Rudy spoke out again. Bing Susu was thoroughly investigated for suspected excessive chemical substances, and Jin Yan was cancelled as a spokesperson for being a big shot. The human nature of loving to eat melons made Wen Jiu stop editing Zingbo. She curiously clicked on the first push to check the details. Eating melons been me. Mimi has brought you the latest news. Everyone knows that Wu Yao Food and Crown Food have been fighting secretly for a long time. But I didn't expect that this time Wu Yao Food directly sued Crown Food in federal court. Mimi quietly revealed here that Wu Yao Food sued on charges of plagiarism and malicious competition. But we, the melon eating people, should wait for the court to open. Mimi will continue to bring you new melons. Seeing this, Wen Jiu smiled knowingly. No wonder Ming Yihan told her not to worry. It turned out that he was going to solve it through legal means. It must be said that this method is indeed the best. After all, there is no point in having a war of words. Although the lawsuit is more expensive, the money is not hers to pay. and she can still profit from it after winning, so she didn't want to intervene, just let Mingya solve it. It's just that Zuan Rudy helped her speak out, which surprised her. Her vest of congratulations on getting rich has no contact with the other party. I don't know what Zuan Rudy is trying to do, maybe to get rid of Jin Yan. Hey, why did Leo ZHU's clarification video get deleted? Wen Jiu wanted to watch Leo ZHU's video again, so that she could write a counterattack on Xingbo, based on the other party's words. Although she didn't like to have such boring wars of words, most things on Xingbo could only be solved in this way. Today's second update has also been delivered. Thank you again for your support. 030. Chapter 485 Walking with Fire 1. They are all a bunch of rubbish. Delete Leo ZHU's video quickly, lest those people drag us down. Li Yaokei felt extremely irritated. In the afternoon, he thought he had controlled the direction of Xingbo, but he didn't expect that it was not even 9 o'clock in the evening, and he was attacked by Wu Yaofu and Zuan Rudy. But that was fine. After all, they mainly attacked Crown Food and Jin Yan, and Leo ZHU was just mentioned by others. But what he couldn't understand was that those gourmets who refused to be paid to help sell and promote before suddenly stood up collectively to speak for Gongzi Fa. They made the snowflake crisps a new legend in the gourmet world, and also relegated their ice and snow crisps to the dust. You know, these gourmets are the most difficult to buy. After all, they have to make money by their own reputation, and they don't accept many promotions for food and restaurants, unless they are those with good reputations. Li Yaokei always looked down on those self-proclaimed gourmets, but such a group of people suddenly stood on the side of Gongzi Fa, which made him 100 times more uncomfortable than eating a fly. Go check if Wu Yaofu gave them money. The office was already filled with smoke, and the ashtray was full of ashes. But Li Yaokei still lit a cigarette. Fuck, didn't that monkey brother refuse to accept promotion? Why did he suddenly jump out to speak for Gongzi Fa? Maybe it's because he is a fan of Gongzi Fa. After being silent for a long time, Leo ZHU finally spoke. He felt the discomfort of being treated as a commodity today, and he cooperated with Li Yaokei to perform the script he had written all day. Although he had performed his character according to the other party's plan before, most of his performance during the live broadcast was real. He really loves food and cooking, but this period of time has made him doubt himself. Is he fighting for his dream, or is he working hard to make dirty money? Hearing this, Li Yaokei's eyes lit up and he said, "Old Zhang, quickly ask them to write a public relations article and send it to the internet army." I thought Gongzi Fa didn't have any measures, but I didn't expect them to do it secretly. Brotherly, I think we should stop it. Leo ZHU interrupted him. Crown Foods is in trouble now, and Jin Yan has also been criticized for her black material. He originally wanted to persuade Li Yaokei not to cause trouble, but he didn't expect the other party to slam the table and shout, "According to what you said, Gongzi Fa is not a small figure. It's okay for Wu Yaofu to help her, but Jin Yan is. Boss, Gongzi Fa just posted a star blog to respond to us." The assistant hurriedly opened the light screen panel and pointed out the star blog that Gongzi Fa had just posted. Gongzi Fa, I'm sorry for taking up public resources, but there are some things I have to say. I hope my star blog doesn't disturb everyone. The first half of the content is almost the same as what she said in the live broadcast. That is, she said that she did not make the recipe public for the purpose of making money or anything else, but mainly hoped to promote ancient Chinese cuisine, so that more people could learn it. But she did not expect that it would be borrowed by someone with ulterior motives, and was also smeared with water and accused of plagiarism. In fact, just looking at the first half of the content is enough to win the favor of passers-by. As technology develops better and better, people pay more attention to things in the past. This is why Leo ZHU can become popular. He has always been doing live broadcasts with the core of promoting ancient Chinese food culture, so many viewers will support him. These words are said as if nothing was said. Li Yaokei was a little unsure of Gongzi Fa's background. It looks like she wrote it herself, not like a public relations article given by the company. When the assistant slid the light screen panel down, Leo ZHU and Li Yaokei were stunned. Gongzi Farke did not continue to explain the second half of the post, but talked about the previous live broadcast with Leo Zhu. In fact, I have tasted the Gong Bao chicken made by Leo Zhu, but I was in a hurry and did not take a photo when I went off the broadcast. It's not that I dislike it as some people say. I have also heard about Leo Zhu's love for food and cooking. If he really wants to improve his cooking skills, he'd better calm down and study hard. The content that followed shocked Leo Zhu even more, because Gongzi Farke actually wrote a recipe for Kung Pao chicken. This recipe is more detailed than the recipes he had found before. It not only describes the origin of Kung Pao chicken in ancient China, but also describes how to process each ingredient. Even the amount of seasoning to be added, the specific grams and milliliters, are all written on it. Until the end, Gongzi Farke did not say anything wrong about Leo Zhu, but only said that he hoped he could focus on improving his cooking skills. The assistant did not need to look up the comments below. Leo Zhu and Li Yaoke could imagine what it would be like. It was nothing more than praising Gongzi Farke for her generosity and saying that she was the real ambassador of food culture. In short, there were very few people who continued to criticize her. I didn't realize that this congratulations on your prosperity was so clever. She put herself in a low position in the opening remarks, and there was not a single word that belittled you in the whole article. But she showed everywhere that your cooking skills are not as good as hers. Li Yaoke is a businessman after all, and his analysis is very logical. However, Leo Zhu kept his head down and remained silent until he finished speaking. Then he suddenly looked up and said, "Brother Li, I want to apologize to Gongzi Farke." Hearing this, Li Yaoke was shocked and amused. "Apologize? Do you think it's too late to apologize now? I have decided not to let you respond to this matter anymore and will just take a cold treatment approach. Anyway, there is so much information on Xingbo that those netizens will forget about it sooner or later. Besides, there is Crown Food taking the blame, and the worst that can happen to Binksusu is that they added it without authorization." Li Yaoke wanted to continue analyzing, but was interrupted by Leo Zhu. "Brother Li, if you don't let me post an apology on Xingbo, I will choose to expose all of this and terminate the contract with you." After he finished speaking, Li Yaoke's face changed again and again. "Are you crazy? You don't understand what I'm saying to you, right?" However, Leo Zhu didn't say anything more to him. He just got up, pushed open the door of the office and walked out, leaving him so angry that he was helpless and furious in the office. Wen Jiu, who caused the quarrel, was unaware of what was going on over there. She began to feel sleepy after drinking the nutrient solution sent by Xiaoli, so she yawned and fell on the bed. After posting the star blog, it was already 11 o'clock in the evening, and many patients had fallen asleep. The evening breeze blew in through the window that was not closed tightly, and the slightly cold feeling made Wen Jiu curl up into a ball. Bang! The huge noise broke the silence of the night, and the sudden hot flames woke up everyone who should have been asleep. Today's third update has also been delivered, please check it. Little Angels 030. I thought I could finish a chapter during the day, but I was dumbfounded after a whole day of classes 0.0, and there is also a group assignment waiting for me. ORZ. I will talk about adding more chapters next time. CAC. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 486, Walking with Fire 2. 3047 Hospital. Some people squatted in the corridor, curled up and cried, while others lay on the bed with pale faces and forced smiles. Even with the rapid development of technology, there are still some diseases that are difficult to cure. Therefore, the hospital is still the place where the most separations and deaths are staged. The sudden explosion was particularly harsh in the silent night, and the heat wave sweeping the entire hospital was suffocating and frightening. What's going on? Evacuate all the patients quickly. Ahem. Why didn't the alarm go off? All medical staff on duty immediately organize the evacuation of patients. Wen Jiu used to be awakened by the cold at night, but tonight she was awakened by the sudden rise in temperature. In a daze, she seemed to hear the sound of someone kicking the door. The door of the ward was originally the most ordinary iron door, which would make a constant rustling sound when kicked. In a trance, she seemed to see the door fall to the ground, and the pungent smell of burning in the air instantly hit her face. Then a familiar figure rushed in, ran to the bedside, and carried her out of the bed. It's okay, I just fell asleep. Ruman's tense nerves finally relaxed a little at this moment. Because when Jiu was small and thin, she didn't feel tired holding him. Other parts of the hospital were also organizing evacuations, and no one knew what caused the explosion. And now was not the time to investigate. All patients and medical staff had to be taken away first. When Jiu just felt very sleepy, and in her drowsiness, she could only feel a warm embrace and a temperature that was rising, and enough to make her sweat. She tried to open her eyes and look around, only to see the blazing flames burning continuously, and many people were running forward in a panic. In addition to the pungent smell of smoke and dust in the air, there seemed to be countless dust particles floating in the air. Wen Jiu. A soft female voice suddenly sounded, and Wen Jiu couldn't help but wake up a little. There was a small accident in the hospital. I will send you and Shishi to Teacher Lee later. That's Teacher Lee Kinson in the college. Ruman's voice stopped abruptly. She had planned to avoid the crowd and go out through another secret door. In fact, she did so, but there was another accident in this plan. Teacher Yu, where are you going to take our little Miomio so late? Lu Zuiying stood in front of the black iron door, with the orange-red flame in her hand winding around her fingertips like a snake. There was also a mysterious man in a cloak standing next to her. The other party only glanced in Ruman's direction, then bent slightly, and whispered a few words to Lu Zuiying. Lu Zuiying, you'd better know what's good for you, before I do anything to you. Ruman didn't have the patience to continue wasting time here, and she knew that the longer she delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for her. The explosion happened too suddenly, so that their staff had no time to react. Although the 3047 hospital was now under their control, they had replaced most of the medical staff with their own people. But there are not many psychics who can come out to fight, and some of them have been assigned to missions, so there are only a handful of people who can help in the hospital now. She has sent several teammates to find Kaioshishi and Chujian. As one of the very few level 6 psychics, she is enough to protect Wen Jiu. But she doesn't want to waste too much time on Lu Zuiying. The most important thing right now is to send Wen Jiu out of here. Hearing this, Lu Zuiying still had her usual smiling look. I'm sorry, Teacher Yu, I'm just not very tactful. Of course, I won't force you to stay if you want to leave, but you have to leave our evergreen things behind. After saying that, she raised her chin towards Ruman, and her almond-shaped eyes stared at Wen Jiu without any concealment. Seeing this, Ruman hugged Wen Jiu tighter, and replied with a pair of cold eyes. Wanian King treats people as things. Then, Teacher Lu, what kind of person are you? You are not qualified to act like a tiger and shout in front of me. Although Lu Zuiying was speechless, after being blocked by this sentence, she was not the kind of person who was easily led by the nose. She only gave a look to the tall and burly cloaked man beside her, and the other party immediately understood, and shot a hot flame at Ruman. However, Ruman just stood there with half-closed eyes, and the faint green light covered her, and Wen Jiu in an instant. The blazing fire snake hit her straight, but there was no fear on her face. The fire snake that should have wrapped around the person and started burning disappeared without a trace when it hit the layer of green light. Lu Zuiying was not surprised by this. She clapped her hands and said sarcastically, it seems that what the intelligence said is true. Teacher Yu has already been promoted to a level 6 supernatural person. Alas, the information published in the academy is really unreliable. Stop talking nonsense and get out of here. Ruman didn't have time to engage in a war of words with her. Groups of green light floated beside her, and in the blink of an eye, they turned into thick vines. These vines attacked Lu Zuiying and the mysterious man very flexibly. At the same time, countless small flowers emerged from the cracks in the concrete floor. They grew at a speed visible to the naked eye until the size of the flower buds was comparable to a human head. The next second, the flower buds bloomed with a bang. One mouth after another with sharp teeth appeared, and the bright and colorful petals were embellished on the side. Hiss. Although LV Zhuang reacted very quickly, she blocked the attack of the vines with a water drop barrier. But the flowers with mouths made it difficult for her to dodge. She just took a step back and was stabbed in the calf by the flower's fangs. She was at least a level 5 psychic. Although the water drop barrier could not completely block Yuruman's attack, it could at least resist 70% of the damage. But this strange flower directly penetrated her barrier, causing her newly bought white dress to be stained with blood. So she shouted impatiently, "Why don't you do it to her quickly? It will be more difficult to deal with Wen Jiu when he wakes up later." Although Wen Jiu was only a level 2 psychic, from the intelligence they had obtained before, the other party had a terrifying power that they could not imagine, and could actually summon strong winds and lightning to attack. They must take such a good seedling away, even if it would cost a little. Got it. The cloaked man waved his hand a little irritably. The flames like waves appeared instantly, burning Yuruman's vines and flowers into smoke and dust. Seeing this, Yuruman's eyes gradually became solemn and resolute. Today's first update has finally arrived. Please check it out, my lovely little angels. Chapter 487 Walking with Fire 3. Wen Jiu's perception of the outside world was still very vague. She only remembered that she seemed to see Yuruman in a daze. But it was already night, and she should be resting at home. How could she still stay in the hospital? In a trance, she only felt a burst of cold and heat, which made her very uncomfortable. Teacher Yu, don't resist anymore. You might as well hand Wen Jiu over to us, so that I can still save your life. Besides, it's useless for you to keep her, so why do you continue to resist here? This gentle tone with a bit of sourness made Wen Jiu's mental state sober up a little. She should be sleeping in bed at this time, but why is this bed so hard that it feels like she is lying on the concrete floor? Thinking of this, she opened her eyes with great effort. The dark grey concrete floor came into view directly. She was actually lying on the concrete floor to sleep. Do you all like to argue so much? It's fine if you two fight against me alone, but why do you like to talk so much nonsense? Wen Jiu heard Yuruman's voice again, and this time she heard it more clearly. She tried her best to keep herself awake and not be defeated by the sleepiness that kept coming. Since you are so ungrateful, don't blame me for being ruthless to you. As soon as Lu Zhuang finished speaking, the raging fire attacked Yuruman and Wen Jiu again. If Wen Jiu could open her eyes and see clearly, she would be able to see that the person in front of her was already covered in wounds. In addition to scars one after another, there were also several charred burns that were very conspicuous. However, Yuruman did not want to retreat. She still condensed a barrier with a calm expression, gritting her teeth, and insisting on protecting Wen Jiu behind her. Hiss, ha. Although most of the endless flames were blocked by the barrier, the temperature brought by the hot flames was still very hot. Wen Jiu felt the burning smell lingering around her nose getting stronger. She wanted to prop herself up and stand up, but she felt exhausted. Was the effect of the nutrient solution she drank still not wearing off? She remembered that Nurse Lee brought a bottle of nutrient solution before going to bed, saying that Zhu Wanming knew that she had not been sleeping well recently, so he added some herbs to help her sleep. Because Zhu Wanming had told her before that Nurse Lee and Dr. Zhao were both members of their organization, she took the nutrient solution, smelled it for a while, and drank it all. But the effect of the medicine was too strong, and she was still in a state of both sleepiness and weakness. Moreover, her originally sensitive hearing became a little dull at this moment. The voices she heard were particularly unclear, and she could only tell from the timbre that it was Yuruman's voice. If Yuruman was fighting to level 5 superpowers alone, it would be no problem, but the cloaked man fought her effortless, and Lu Zhuang would occasionally make sneak attacks from the side. In addition, she had to protect Wen Jiu, so she suffered so many injuries. Seeing that the cloaked man wanted to attack again, she could only think quickly about how to escape with Wen Jiu. It would definitely not work if she continued to delay like this, and she had already agreed with her teammates that if she didn't join them, they would quickly add more people to come to her for help. But she had been here for such a long time, and the teammates who went to rescue Kyoshi and Chujian had not come to the small gate to look for her yet. If she guessed correctly, it should be Wen King who sent people to intercept them, so it really made no sense for her to waste her energy here. Alas, actually I don't want to tear my face with you. To be honest, Mr. Yu, I still like your personality, and we Wen King welcome you to join us. The treatment here is much better than that of Fenian. Perhaps Lu Zuiying felt that they were sure to win, so she waved her hand to stop the cloaked man's attack, and then walked towards Yuruman while mocking. She was not worried that the other party would attack her. Although she couldn't beat him, her defensive skills were still very strong. Yuruman just looked at her coldly and said, "Oh, really? But I just hate you Wen King. You are all so self-righteous and disgusting." She has never liked Wen King's style, not to mention that Wen King was formed by people she hates. The reason why she left the 3rd military region and became a member of Fenian after returning to her hometown was because she hated Wen King. Hearing this, Lu Zuiying blinked nonchalantly. That's a pity, you can only fall on this dirty and pitiful little planet. She and Yuruman were only a few feet away, so the contempt in her eyes was seen by the other party. This sentence seemed to determine Yuruman's fate, but she has never been a person who believes in fate. She suddenly stood up and kicked Lu Zuiying fiercely, then rode on her body and slapped her palm after palm. This simple and rough method made the cloaked people standing next to her stunned. Pa, pa, pa. The loud slaps kept ringing, making Lu Zuiying dizzy. Fortunately, the cloaked man didn't stand there for too long. He quickly shot a stream of fire at Yuruman. The surging flames raised the temperature of the surroundings again. Just when the cloaked man thought he could take down Yuruman in one fell swoop, the blazing flames disappeared as if being swallowed. Are you shameless to attack by surprise? Are you shameless to fight one person with two people? Wen Jiu stood up shakily, and balls of deep blue flames surrounded her. She lay there for a long time before finally regaining some consciousness. As soon as she woke up, she found that the cloaked man was attacking by surprise. What made her most angry was Yuruman's injuries. The bright red blood kept flowing down her limbs, which made her feel shocked and heartbroken. Although she didn't know what happened, it was right to beat up these two people. However, before she could fight back, Yuruman turned around and shouted at her, "Run. Don't stand here stupidly." Lu Zuiying, whose eyes were dazzled by the light, had lost her composure. She took advantage of this opportunity to shout like crazy, "Why are you still standing there? Catch Wen Jiu." Their main target this time was Wen Jiu. As for Kyoshi and the others, they were just incidental. Even if they were not caught, it would not be a big deal. If the plan that had been prepared for so long failed here, she would not be able to leave planet 3047 alive. Run. Yuruman did not slap Lu Zuiying again. She just raised her hand and used her remaining supernatural energy to construct a solid barrier to cover Wen Jiu. Seeing this, Wen Jiu gritted his teeth and ran towards the iron gate. From the current situation, it would only cause trouble for her to stay here. It would be better to go outside to find help. But the cloaked man did not give her a chance to escape. In the blink of an eye, he rushed from behind her to the iron gate. However, Wen Jiu did not show any fear. A hint of confidence flashed in his grey-blue eyes. He put the talisman he had just taken out on the other person. It was impossible to run away. He would only feel relieved if he stayed and beat her. Chapter 488 Walking with Fire 4. The cloaked man didn't know what the paper with the dark red symbol was for. He only glanced at it with contempt and wanted to grab the thin and hard thing in front of him. However, the opponent's movements were very flexible. After sticking the talisman, he dodged at a very fast speed and then retreated to a position a few meters away from him. Ah. Yuruman, are you crazy? Whether it was fighting or supernatural powers, Lu Zuiying could not be compared with Yuruman, so she could only be pressed to the ground and beaten by the opponent. Her originally beautiful face had already been beaten black and blue by the opponent. That would have been fine, but Yuruman didn't stop after slapping her and actually started to pull her hair hard. Her exclamation was so harsh that the cloaked man and Wen Jiu looked at her. However, Wen Jiu did not forget that she was still in danger. She crossed her hands in front of her chest and bent her fingers slightly into a lotus shape. Then she concentrated and whispered a complicated spell. The talisman on the cloaked man suddenly caught fire, and the ashes of the burning paper drifted away bit by bit in the wind. He frowned and patted the place where the talisman was pasted without caring. He didn't care about such a small thing. However, what he didn't expect was that as soon as his hand touched the ashes, the sporadic flames suddenly increased and ran along his fingers. What surprised him most was that the flames were blue. He thought that the blue flames he saw before were his illusion. Don't be burned by her flames. Lu Zuiying finally pulled herself out of the pain, but before she finished speaking, she saw that her teammate's arm was wrapped in dark blue flames. She remembered the information about Wen Jiu clearly. It stands to reason that the flames of fire-type psychics are orange-red, but the color of the opponent's flames is actually dark blue, which has never been seen before. This flame is hotter and more fierce than the flames of other psychics. It was too late. The sleeve of the cloaked man's right arm had been burned by the dark blue flame, and the arm inside was also burned to a charred state. Seeing this, Wen Jiu took 2 steps back contentedly. In the eyes of others, she was making a defensive posture, but only she knew that it was the weakness after using spiritual power that came over her. The cloaked man's ability level was at least level 6, so she used this spell with great effort. If it was a level 4 or lower ability user, she would at least burn him half to death after activating this fire spell. But when facing such a high level ability user, she could only barely burn his arm. The cloaked man, who had not spoken before, spoke up after realizing the danger of Wen Jiu. Hiss, it seems that I underestimated you. You are indeed a good seedling that they have chosen, and you are much more difficult to deal with than the previous ones. Before Wen Jiu could say anything, Yu Rumen pulled off a handful of Lu Zuiying's black hair and said, "Blue-White. The people of the White family are as daring as ever. Miss Yu is as irritable as the last time we met." Blue-White seemed to feel no pain. He raised his other intact arm to take off the mask and threw his black cloak on the ground. It must be said that Blue-White is actually a very handsome person, and his emerald green eyes have a special kind of affection. When he looks at Yu Rumen, it's like looking at his lover. But his words were devoid of affection. "Miss Yu, I'm so sad. I never thought that you would be the one who betrayed me. In that case, I can only deal with your beloved daughter first, and then I will have a good chat with you, Miss Yu." What he hated most was that someone betrayed and used him. He didn't expect that Yu Rumen had both of these. But it doesn't matter. This woman will soon cry and pay the price for what she did. Lu Zuiying had been tortured by Yu Rumen and had nothing to say. She thought that she could finally gain power in this action, but she didn't expect that she would still be suppressed because of her own weakness. Moreover, the opponent's attack was too despicable. As a superpower, she actually chose such a physical attack. Her cheeks had already swollen up high, and she shouted with all her strength, "Catch Wen Jiu first, and it's okay to deal with Yu Rumen later. It doesn't matter. Anyway, her injury is not serious. She can go back and lie in the medical cabin for a few days. It's just a little embarrassing." Hearing this, Blue-White saluted to Wen Jiu in a gentlemanly manner. "I'm sorry that Miss Lu and I have the same idea, so little Wen Jiu, you're going to be finished soon." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Yu Rumen quickly stand up and run towards Wen Jiu. She grabbed Wen Jiu's wrist and then ran towards the small door very quickly. "Miss Yu, it's not like you to run away when you can't win." Blue-White half squinted his eyes and didn't chase the two people. He just raised his hand silently and condensed several fireballs. The moment Yu Rumen approached the small door, he smiled confidently and shot the fireballs. "Run. You must leave here." Wen Jiu only saw the sky full of fireballs attacking her and Yu Rumen. The other party used up the last bit of energy to condense a small shield, which just covered the little her inside to avoid being burned by the fireballs. She was pushed by Yu Rumen with all her strength and fell to the ground and rolled several times. The hospital gown on her body was immediately stained with a lot of dust, and a piece of gravel on the roadside cut her trouser leg, causing a bloody mark on her calf. However, this pain was nothing compared to the scene she saw with her eyes wide open. She finally understood what her master said about the pain of the heart being more painful than the pain of the body. Most of the fireballs hit Uruman, but she gritted her teeth and didn't cry out in pain. Even though the flames continued to spread on her body, she endured the pain and looked at Wen Jiu, telling him to run away with her eyes. TSK, miss you and your mother-daughter relationship are really touching. Blue White only glanced at Uruman, who was lying on the ground, and then strode to Wen Jiu, grabbed her hair effortless, and lifted her up in the air. You are just a second-level mutant. Do you really think you can run away? Blue White chuckled and glanced at his charred right arm. It's a pity that you are someone they value. Otherwise I really want to remove your arms. He was very charming when he smiled. Under other circumstances, he would have charmed a lot of girls. However, Wen Jiu had no intention of appreciating beauty. Her tears kept falling from her muddy face. She only hated why she was not strong enough. Otherwise Uruman would not have suffered so much. Seeing that she was crying, Blue White couldn't help but sneered and said, "You two are really affectionate mother and daughter. I like watching such dramas the most." Wen Jiu didn't hear a word of these words. She just felt her head buzzing. This is the third update today. I wish you all a happy weekend and thank you again for the support of the little angels. 030. Chapter 489, Walking with Fire 5. Blue White looked at Wen Jiu with interest. The other party seemed to be frightened and just shed tears, completely ignoring what he said. I was praising you just now. Why are you acting like a fool now? Before he finished speaking, he heard Wen Jiu whispering, like what? Like a fool, right? This sudden question caught him off guard. Yeah, but as long as the little fool is trained well, he can always become a smart guy who is loved by everyone. Blue White took Wen Jiu forward a few steps. When he passed Uruman, who was still being burned by the flames, he sighed softly and retracted the blazing flames. The originally beautiful face had been burned beyond recognition, and the white skin was also burnt and red. Such a completely different appearance was really frightening. Since the mission target was already in hand, he didn't need to spend more effort on Uruman. Why did Miss You do that? You could have lived a good life with me, but you chose to suffer. Blue White sighed again, but there was no regret in his words. He strode forward and walked to LV Zuang, who was still lying on the ground with her face up, unable to move. Her cheeks were swollen and had several red marks, and her satin-like black hair was torn into pieces. Why don't you kill her? It says to clean her up. LV Zuang didn't even have the strength to speak. She was originally lower in rank than Uruman, so it was naturally much more difficult for her to fight. She was beaten up by the other party just now, and now she felt weak all over. If Uruman hadn't also exhausted her energy, she would have been killed by the other party just now. Well, I'm a man who cherishes women. Blue White was about to throw Wen Jiu to the ground, but a sharp pain suddenly came from his arm. He subconsciously threw Wen Jiu, who was holding him, out. After landing steadily, the other party ran several meters ahead. Hiss. Blue White raised his left arm and took a look. Only then did he find a red mark on it, as if it was burned by a blazing flame. He couldn't help but half squinted his eyes and looked up at Wen Jiu. The other party ran to a wide position and stopped. Wen Jiu's line of sight just happened to meet his. Come. Hearing this, Blue White was confused and alert. He didn't feel Wen Jiu using his superpowers at all, but the red burn marks on his arm were real. Little Wen Jiu, be good, don't make trouble. Many fireballs gradually surrounded him. Every time a fireball appeared, the air around it became hotter. Lu Zuang finally recovered a little strength. She was a person who knew how to analyze the situation. When she saw Wen Jiu escape, she began to slowly crawl towards the corner, fearing that she would be implicated in the fight later. However, she had just crawled half a meter away when she was rolled into the air by a thick vine. Ah! She couldn't help but scream at the sudden flight. Wen Jiu just stood there quietly, looking up at the sky with cold eyes. Her eyes were empty and cold, as if no one was worthy of her eyes. Then she turned her head and looked at Blue White. Her eyes seemed to be looking at an insignificant ant. Such a look made Blue White inexplicably timid, but he still calmed down and shot out some fireballs. As soon as the tumbling and hot fireballs touched the vines, they disappeared as if swallowed by a black hole, without even a little burn. Moreover, the vines that were wrapped around Lu Zuiying seemed to absorb the energy brought by those fireballs. Instead of disappearing, they became thicker. Seeing this, Blue White's heart tightened immediately. He decisively attacked all the remaining fireballs at Wen Jiu. Although there were many strange things about the other party that were surprising, he was still a superpower who had only reached the second level. Therefore, he was 99% sure that he could defeat Wen Jiu, and the only thing left was his fear of the Five Thunders. According to the information obtained before, the Five Thunders needed to be triggered by paper, so he just had to avoid being stuck with a strange paper. In the moment he was thinking, Wen Jiu flexibly turned over and jumped to avoid all the fireballs. The fireballs that fell on the ground quickly condensed together, and a high and hot wall of fire was constructed in an instant. The wall of fire spread quickly until it surrounded Wen Jiu, and then another fire snake rushed towards her. Because she was surrounded by the wall of fire, Blue White could not see her face for the time being, and naturally did not notice that her originally grey-blue eyes were gradually turning into an organic silver grey. Blue White took advantage of Wen Jiu being surrounded by the wall of fire and quickly shot another hot flame at the strange vine. Although LV Zuiying was just a tool for him, she was sent from Evergreen after all. If she died here, he would not be able to explain to them. The hot flames shot out this time were not absorbed by the vines. In a blink of an eye, the vines were burned to ashes. So Blue White kicked hard and flew into the air, holding LV Zuiying, who was falling, in his arms with one hand. Snap! The loud sound of breaking through the air made him feel deafening, and he could not help but look in the direction of the sound. Wen Jiu was holding a golden whip expressionlessly, and the wall of fire in front of her seemed to have intelligence, burning with crackling sounds, and spreading far away, as if paving a rampant fire road for her. The next second, Blue White saw her wrist raised and flipped, and the long whip attacked him like a spirit snake out of a cave. Snap! He was hit by the long whip before he could dodge. His clothes on his back were torn. The coldness and the burning pain came at the same time. He hadn't been so embarrassed for a long time. So he endured the pain and put LV Zuiying far away, then turned around and summoned a huge fire snake. This fire snake was completely different from the previous small fire snake. It was like a giant python looking down at Wen Jiu in midair, and at the same time opened its mouth and spewed out a mouthful of blazing flames. However, before the flames touched Wen Jiu, they were blown away by the long whip she swung. Bruce, call someone quickly. Seeing this, LV Zuiying remembered the information she had read before. Although Wen Jiu looked like a second level psychic, there were countless strange things about her. It was difficult to figure out what level her power could reach during the battle. You know, Bruce White was already a 6th level psychic, but he was still at a disadvantage when fighting Wen Jiu. Oh, why are you yelling? I haven't had enough fun yet. Blue White glanced disdainfully at LV Zuiying, who was leaning against the wall. Then he stretched out his finger and pointed lightly in the direction of Wen Jiu, and the fire python opened its mouth wide and rushed towards him in an instant. This is the first update of the day. Please check it out, little angels, and thank you for your support. 030. Chapter 490 Mysterious Black Smoke 1. Wen Jiu still looked indifferent, as if nothing that happened at this moment was worth her attention. She stood there and gently turned her head, as if she was doing warm-up exercises before training. The crackling and twisting sounds and the hissing sounds of the fire python formed an exciting symphony before the battle. At this time, the silver grey in her eyes completely occupied the grey-blue, and then she stepped forward with a rhythmic step, dragging the long whip, and colliding head-on with the fire python that rushed in front of her. Snap! Another loud and piercing sound of breaking through the air. Wen Jiu's long whip no longer shone with golden light like before, but was stained with a layer of jumping and eye-catching dark blue flames. She swung the whip at the abdomen of the fire python, but the long whip that should have missed hit the real object. This scene made Blue White, who was standing behind, frown immediately. Then she jumped up from the ground and swung out another whip. This time, the dark blue flame on the long whip directly intersected with the orange-red flame that made up the fire python. The two flames kept colliding and trying to devour each other. After Wen Jiu fell back to the ground, she didn't look at the fire python again. She moved her eyes to Blue White, who was not far away. "I'm so sorry, it seems that I underestimated you." Blue White gave her a gentleman's salute. "Then let me show you to my heart's content next." As he said that, he snapped his fingers lightly, and a huge fire python appeared behind him again. In addition, more fireballs appeared in the air, and even the firewall that had retreated before was condensed again. The temperature around rose in an instant, which made Lu Zuiying, who had just recovered a little, divide a trace of energy to condense the shield. Such an insufficient energy shield cannot resist damage, but it can make her feel better in such a situation. However, such a temperature is nothing for a fire-type mutant, so Wen Jiu and Blue White did not show any abnormality. Wow, the fun begins. Blue White raised his hands and tapped them gently on his ears. The surging and hot wall of fire immediately surrounded Wen Jiu, and several fireballs were thrown in her direction. The fire python was also moving faster than before, and in the blink of an eye it got in from the outside of the tall wall of fire. Wen Jiu, who was surrounded, still had no expression on her face. She seemed not to feel the burning sensation of the licking of the flames. She only retracted the golden whip and began to flip her hands. As she formed the handprint faster and faster, the faint light on her fingertips became brighter and brighter. "I thought she had some tricks." Blue White separated a trace of energy to form a shield for himself. "It seems that it's just like this. Miss Lu, your information is not enough." Before he could finish his words, a dazzling light suddenly appeared. This made him half squint his eyes and condense a fireball in his hand again. The next second, the already dark night sky became even darker. A strong wind blew from nowhere and blew the fiercely burning wall of fire smaller and smaller. The fire python that had been entangled with Wen Jiu's deep blue flames finally lost in this battle of flames. Its orange-red color was replaced by deep blue at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant, a deep blue giant python roared hoarsely at the sky. "Your fire python is barely acceptable." Wen Jiu had been silent before, and finally spoke the first sentence at this moment. However, her voice was different from the crispness before, and it had a bit more of a robot-like cold texture. Every time she took a slow step forward, blood dripped from her body. It was like stepping on the blooming flowers of the other shore and walking out of the depths of the gloomy and terrifying hell, exuding a demonic and fierce aura. And the deep blue fire python was also stronger than before, and it kept spitting out its snake tongue and swimming beside Wen Jiu. As for the huge fire python he summoned the second time, it was bitten by Wen Jiu's deep blue fire python in the blink of an eye, so his fire python was instantly turned into powder and scattered. Bruce White was very surprised by all these changes. He didn't expect that the fire python he condensed could be transformed by the other party. An instinctive fear made him tremble, but he was also a superpower who had experienced many ups and downs, so he would not flee the battlefield because of the inexplicable fear in his heart. While condensing the fire python again, he thought about whether he should start the mecha to fight Wen Jiu. But then he thought that this was really a bit of an exaggeration, and it was instructed that the mecha should not be used without authorization unless necessary, so as not to attract more people's attention and cause the failure of this mission. The reason why they set fire to the 3047 hospital was to divert the attention of ordinary people, so as to facilitate their people to sneak in and intercept the mission target. However, before he could think of the result, a cold voice sounded behind him. "Fool." The next second, he was kicked to the ground by Wen Jiu. He fell face down unexpectedly, his limbs imprisoned by the spreading vines. "Is it fun?" Wen Jiu's tone revealed a hint of joy, just like an innocent child playing with his playmate. But her behavior was completely inconsistent with the standards of a child. She stepped on Blue White's broad and charming back, and pressed the opponent who was facing the ground with full force to the point of suffocation. Her eyes were cold and dark, and she retracted her feet before Blue White was completely suffocated. However, because she was not wearing shoes, when she was carried out of the ward, her feet had already been stained with thick dust and blood, which also left grey-red footprints on Blue White's back. The next second, the golden long whip fell on Blue White, and dazzling red blood drops splashed everywhere with the whip. Such pain was unbearable even for him. He wanted to use fire to burn off the vines that imprisoned him, but found that the vines had drilled into his flesh and blood and were constantly absorbing his energy at this moment. He had never encountered such a strange supernatural move. The fear that had been hidden in his heart finally broke out. He began to curse Wen Jiu and Yu Rumen without caring about his image. However, Wen Jiu just remained silent. She whipped Blue White hard again and again until his back was bloody. Lu Zuoying, who was watching all this quietly, covered her mouth tightly. She joined Wan Nanking after graduating from the military academy, so she had never seen such a horrifying and weird scene. In fact, she had seen bloody scenes before. When she was in the military academy, they often had to go out to take tasks as students, and every year they had to go to the garbage planet for cruel field training. Later, she graduated and joined Wan Nanking and was just trained as a pawn. It can be said that, although she was called a nursery master, she had never really led a nursery. Extreme panic made her give up the task reward and find the pendant from the wisdom ring space. She really didn't dare to stay here any longer. Even Blue White, a level 6 psychic, was beaten by Wen Jiu, so it would be easy for him to deal with her, a level 5 psychic. So Lu Zuoying gritted her teeth and crushed the gem in the center of the pendant. In an instant, a strong wind blew, and dark clouds rolled, and a cloud of black smoke came out of the broken gem. This is the second update of the day. Thank you for the support of every little angel ORZ. The daily words are typed by the author, although they look very similar, they are not copied and pasted ORZ. The author was lucky enough to be selected in class on Friday, and had a whole day of homework on Saturday, so I will post the 2 chapters I wrote in the evening, and I will make up for the missing 3rd chapter during the day. Please forgive me, dear little angels. CAC. Chapter 491 Mysterious Black Smoke 2. Great God Suleiman, in the name of your most loyal believer, I beg you to come here and protect me. LV Zuoying put her hands together and prayed earnestly. She saw the black smoke swelling in the wind and condensed into a human figure in an instant. This was given to her by her superior before she came on the mission. It is said that this is a trace of power from the gods that Evergreen believes in, and it can protect them for a short time after being released. After she used the pendant, she quickly found the communicator. It is impossible to sit here and wait for death. She must ask for support to get rid of Wen Jiu. They did not have a commander for this operation, so they could not use mental power connection to communicate, and could only use the communicator to transmit information and emergency signals. My poor believer, are you calling me to come? The inky black smoke condensed into a human figure, and it slowly floated towards LV Zuoying, and then floated around her like a ghost. Great God Suleiman, I pray that you will protect me and keep me safe. After LV Zuoying passed the message to others, she quickly stood up and knelt down sincerely. She heard from other people in the organization that God Suleiman liked obedient and sincere believers, and as long as her heart was sincere enough, he would fulfill her wishes. Good child, I feel your sincerity. The shadow made of black smoke floated in front of her. This move gave her a full sense of security, but her heart started beating wildly again the next second. Then what is the reward you pay me? Is it your beautiful and attractive face, or your priority talent in potions, or your 10-year lifespan? The voice of God Suleiman was both light and melodious, but every word of his made LV Zuoying extremely nervous. Why didn't the boss tell her before that she would be rewarded for making a wish to God Suleiman? Seeing this, Wen Jiu, who was watching the show with interest, couldn't help but chuckle. It is not so easy to make a wish to the gods. You have to burn incense when you go to the temple to worship Buddha. However, she seemed to have heard the name of the god Suleiman somewhere, but she couldn't remember it for a moment. Since you are unwilling to pay me, I will take back my divine power. Hearing this, Lu Zuoying interrupted and said, I'm willing to give 10 years of my life. I beg you to accept my insignificant reward. She was reluctant to give up her excellent beauty, nor was she willing to lose her talent in potions. Only these 10 years of life were what she could grit her teeth and give. Anyway, she was only in her 20s this year, and had no shortage of these 10 years of life. After the words fell, the shadow suddenly solidified a lot. He slowly landed on the ground and there were still wisps of black smoke surrounding his body, covering his true appearance, and making it difficult for Wen Jiu to peek. Only from the figure condensed by the black smoke, he could vaguely see a bit of his enchanting charm. But this was not brought by his appearance or figure, but the kind of charm that he was born with. Seeing this, Wen Jiu stepped back cautiously. The dark blue fire python beside her burned more fiercely, as if warning the god Sulame. She remembered where she had heard this name. When she first met Zhuang Rudi at the Starlight Night Market, the other party was swindling under the banner of the god Sulame. At that time, she thought that this name was made up by Zhuang Rudi, but she didn't expect that the god Sulame seemed to exist. But she didn't care whether the other party was a god or a demon. No one could stop her from taking revenge on Lu Zuang and Blue White. Little girl, you smell very good. The god Sulame suddenly floated behind her. Anger, hatred, unwillingness, and sadness, each of which is the smell I like. Wen Jiu didn't even see his movements clearly. The sudden sound in her ears made her throw a fireball over. However, her attack was ineffective because the fireball was absorbed by the god Sulame in the blink of an eye. You are very brave, but unfortunately, the light voice sounded again. Your power is still too weak. The next second, Wen Jiu was entangled and imprisoned by countless vines. Even if she used the deep sea blue flame, she could not ignite these vines. Because these vines were completely different from those she summoned, they were all made of elusive black smoke. Her flames could not touch the vines at all, let alone ignite and burn them. When Wen Jiu was suppressed, she could clearly feel the energy in her body was fading, but she had no way to deal with it. The power of the gods is so strong that, even if only a trace of their true body was separated, they could easily get rid of ordinary people like ants. Lu Zuang was very glad that she made a deal at this time, otherwise she really didn't know how to stay here. She had to wait until reinforcement came. Seeing that Wen Jiu had been suppressed by the god of Sulame, she quickly took out a few bottles of potions from the wisdom ring space and drank them. Then she hurried to Blue White and cut off the vines that were out of Wen Jiu's control with a sharp blade. Mr. Blue. She opened a bottle of healing potion and gave it to Blue White. The unconscious man regained consciousness after drinking the potion. Seeing this, she felt that her heart was relieved instantly. On the other side, the figure of the god of Sulame began to fade gradually, but he was still floating around Wen Jiu with interest. You taste really delicious. A wisp of black smoke gently brushed across Wen Jiu's face. Why don't we make a deal? You become my believer, and I will help you deal with them. His voice was so soft that it was barely audible, but it was very clear to Wen Jiu's mind. Hearing this, she felt that this god of Sulame was even more unreliable. The other party might be an evil god who ran out of some ruins. You must know that the gods have always kept their promises and would never do such a thing of going back on their words. However, she just thought about it in her heart and heard that light voice again. How can it be considered as going back on one's word? I took her award to protect her safety, and I took your award to help you solve the problem. I can do both of these things and there is no conflict. Little girl, if you don't give me an answer, I will disappear. The black smoke that constitutes the god of Sulame became lighter and lighter, as if it would completely dissipate in a few seconds. Wen Jiu just remained silent about this. She didn't believe in the so-called god of Sulame at all. What's more, she has always been the one asking others for awards, so how could anyone chase her to make a deal and ask for money? Seeing her silence, the god of Sulame was not angry, but just separated a wisp of black smoke before completely dissipating. See you later, little girl. As the voice fell, the black smoke floated into Wen Jiu's eyebrows, and she suddenly felt the temperature of her body drop sharply, as if she had fallen into an extremely cold ice cellar. Today's third update is finally delivered. Please check it out, little angels. 030. The little author said that there is really no useless setting ORZ. Chapter 492. Arrested and jailed 1. No 99 currently has a normal heart rate and body temperature. After testing, the mental power level is expected to be S level. The supernatural power level has reached the peak of the second level and is about to enter the promotion. The danger level is determined to be S level and needs to be supervised. The analysis results of intelligence have been released. A plan has been customized according to No 99's situation. Please ask the supervisor to notify the nursery master in time after number 99 wakes up. Wen Jiu sat up from the mattress in a daze. The hard and cold touch came from her wrist. She couldn't help but open her eyes and look carefully. She saw a pair of iron handcuffs holding her hands. The chain in the center extended to the wall, and her feet were also locked by iron handcuffs. The whole person was restricted to a fixed range. She looked around in confusion. This was a room made of metal blocks. It was square and there was no window. There were only some small air holes that continuously delivered fresh air. It was not right. She remembered that she was in the hospital before. How could she be arrested and imprisoned after waking up from a sleep? What happened in the meantime? The more Wen Jiu thought about it, the more headache she felt. Incoherent fragments emerged in her mind, but she just couldn't remember what happened. The only thing she remembered was that she seemed to have forgotten something very important. But as she was trying to recall it, she found that the metal cube not far from her began to flip rapidly, and it decomposed into countless metal particles in just a few seconds. 4 soldiers armed from head to toe walked in first, and finally a man in a white coat stepped in. He wore a dark green mask on his face, with a pattern outlined in bright red. Visually, there was a kind of beauty of color collision, but Wen Jiu only felt that it was very weird. Seedling number 99 woke up after being in a coma for 128 hours. Now I'm the nursery technician to test her. The masked man slowly approached Wen Jiu. After his voice fell, the metal cubes around him turned again, and the originally shiny silver metal cubes turned transparent in an instant. Wen Jiu was caught off guard by this change. She glanced at the transparent block in front of her, but saw a row of people wearing masks standing outside. Apart from anything else, she guessed that she was caught as an experimental subject, and those people standing outside observing should be the so-called seedling breeders. She was thinking about driving the energy in her body to activate her superpowers, but a current suddenly rushed out of her iron handcuffs, and she fell on the mattress and twitched as if she was hit hard. Every muscle in her body was pricking like needles, and a strong feeling of vomiting kept spreading upwards. She could only grit her teeth and endure this feeling. Seedling number 99 violated the rules by using superpowers. The masked man not far away stopped, turning a blind eye to what was happening in front of him. This electric shock punishment is only a warning, and the voltage will be increased next time you violate the rules. Hearing this, Wen Jiu's mind flashed through 10,000 dirty words. Such a strong voltage was just a warning. The other party probably wanted her to die directly. When the electric current in the iron handcuffs stopped attacking, she gasped on the mattress, but the stinging sensation had not yet dissipated, as if she was bitten by 10,000 ants. Next, test seedling number 99. The masked man had just finished speaking when 2 metal tentacles slid down from the wall, seemingly transformed from the strange metal cube. Wen Jiu was very weak after being electrocuted, and the metal tentacles lifted her up effortless. She could only hang her head in the air. Then several black catheters drilled out from the inside of the tentacles, twisting and turning to cling to her limbs, and a few thicker ones stuck to her temples. The next second, she only felt the energy in her body constantly draining away, and even her mental power was being absorbed by these catheters. The masked men only raised their heads and looked at her as if they were enjoying a very painful pantomime. It was not until Wen Jiu felt that she could no longer bear this sour feeling that the black catheter slowly left her body. Then the metal tentacles threw her down mercilessly, and she fell on the mattress with a thud. Fortunately, the mattress was very soft, otherwise she would have fallen half to death. The test of seedling number 99 has been completed. The mental power level is still S level and there is room for improvement. The supernatural power is at the peak of level 2 and can be promoted after training. The danger level is temporarily downgraded to A level. The masked man paused after saying this. No 99 will be temporarily retained for supervision and will be tested again in 24 hours. After saying this, he turned around and walked out from the metal particles. Then the 4 warriors also left in unison. The moment their figures disappeared, the metal particles turned back into blocks again. Even the metal cubes that were as transparent as ice cubes turned back to their previous silver color in the blink of an eye. Wen Jiu felt a chill all over her body. She was suddenly locked up here and was being monitored by a group of people in real time. If the people just now hadn't come in to test her, she would have found it difficult to find that these metal cubes could be transformed, and she would have no way of knowing that she was actually under surveillance. She didn't dare to say a word now, and could only lie on the mattress like a dead dog, analyzing the current situation in her heart. This matter had to start from when she was in the hospital. At that time, Xiaoli gave her a nutrient solution to help her sleep. After she drank it, she fell asleep. As soon as she felt sleepy, she seemed to remember that she was awake for a while after falling asleep, but she couldn't remember what happened at that time. Only a few fragments reminded her of what she had forgotten. But she was sure that she was caught by the so-called seedling master and was now in a state of imprisonment and supervision. But according to what Chu Jian said, she should live with a group of children first, and then separate according to their levels after the first test. But now, let alone children, she can't even see a normal person. There is only one mattress in this huge and weird house, and there is not even a bed frame, pillow, or sheets. Thinking of this, Wen Jiu couldn't help but sit up despite the pain. How would she solve the problem of eating and going to the toilet? It's okay to have only one mattress, as long as there is a place to sleep. But she had to find a place to eat and go to the bathroom. She couldn't do that with so many people outside staring at her. She was in the middle of a brainstorming session when she saw 2 more metal cubes spinning. Seeing this, she couldn't help but observe the way the metal cubes were spinning. But the metal cubes were spinning too fast, and it was difficult for the naked eye to see their various changes. With a subtle click, the metal cubes turned into metal particles again. This time, 6 soldiers pushed through the particles and walked in. The last one to walk in was the masked man from before. He just stood at the entrance and said calmly, "Seedling number 99, it's time for you to get some fresh air now. This is the first update of the day. It has been delivered on time. Please check it out, little angels." 030. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 493, Caught in Jail 2. The word "out of bounds" made Wen Jiu feel more like she was in prison. However, the following facts proved that she was indeed a prisoner. The masked man tapped the metal block next to him twice, and the iron handcuffs on her hands and feet tightened a little in an instant, and the chain connecting the iron handcuffs also broke. Seedling number 99. Please do not talk to other seedlings, and it is forbidden to use supernatural powers or mental power. The time for this out of bounds is 30 minutes. The masked man finished the rules here in a calm tone. His voice sometimes leaned towards the thick feeling of men, and sometimes with the sharp and gentle voice of women, as if he used a voice changer to hide his identity. After he finished speaking, he motioned Wen Jiu to follow him. Wen Jiu was just about to learn more about the things here, so she hurriedly stepped forward and followed the masked man. She thought that these metal particles would be very cold to the touch, but when she followed the masked man away, she passed through the small particles floating in the air directly, as if they did not exist. This puzzled her, but she needed to collect more information at the moment, and this short contact could not allow her to analyze it. Outside was a long and narrow passage, which was only wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side. She could not even see the end at a glance. There were also dazzling incandescent lights hanging above her head, which made her feel dizzy. "No 99 seedling, please close your eyes." The masked man stopped after walking for only a few minutes, "Otherwise you will bear the consequences." Obviously, the masked man was too lazy to tell her the reason. Although Wen Jiu wanted to escape from here, she also knew that she could not be impatient. So she closed her eyes very obediently, and in an instant she felt a strange sense of weightlessness, as if she was riding a bungee jumping machine in an amusement park. It was not until the masked man's voice sounded again that she opened her tightly closed eyes. "Seedling number 99, you have entered the Mian building, which is under full supervision. Next, please state your needs and I will take you to the designated location." Hearing this, Wen Jiu couldn't help but say what he wanted to do most. "I want to go to the bathroom." However, the masked man did not show any reaction, but turned around and walked towards the corridor on the left with indifference. Seeing this, Wen Jiu hurriedly followed him. As she walked, she carefully looked around. This place was all made of metal blocks. However, compared with those in her room, the blocks in the corridor were darker. The only similarity was that there were no windows in the corridor. She guessed that this should be to prevent the experimental subjects from escaping. Thinking of this, she pretended to move her head twice unintentionally and took advantage of the 1-second gap to look up. Seedling number 99, you are prohibited from looking around in the corridor. Wen Jiu originally wanted to observe for a while longer, but the soldier behind her put a gun to her back. In this regard, she could only take a deep breath and move forward. She remembered that the masked man said that she was forbidden to talk to others. Although the other party only emphasized other seedlings at that time, she was very good at understanding the eyes and would naturally think more. After walking for 3 or 4 minutes, she saw an iron door. The masked man stopped in front of her and said to her, "It will be solved in 1 minute." After the voice fell, she didn't know what the other party did, and the iron handcuffs that imprisoned her fell directly to the ground. She quickly opened the door and rushed in, but there were no windows in the toilet either, but there were more exhaust holes on the ceiling. Seeing this, Wen Jiu walked into a cubicle with a bit of loneliness. As the saying goes, I'm here, and I don't know when the next time I can go out. But just as she was about to push the door in, she was pressed against the door with a thud. New here? Did you come up from the Zuoan building, or from the Lanihuan? Hearing this, Wen Jiu propped himself up and kicked back. Taking advantage of the moment when the other party loosened his fist, she clenched her fist and hit him hard. Stephanie was immediately more interested. She took the attack with a palm, and then grabbed Wen Jiu's arm, and pressed him against the door again. So irritable, it seems that he came up from the bamboo courtyard building. She kept repeating her own conclusions, and Wen Jiu felt very speechless. Beautiful sister, can you let me go to the toilet first? 1 minute is almost over. This time of relaxation is particularly rare. If she doesn't seize the time, she will be judged as a violation, and then she will be tortured by electric shock again. After saying that, Stephanie let Wen Jiu go. She smiled and opened the door of the cubicle. Little sister, please. Her kind and reasonable appearance made Wen Jiu feel creepy. Could this person also be a seedling? And what kind of life did Chu Jian live here? It was too miserable to be beaten for going to the toilet. No 99 seedling, you still have 10 seconds. Wen Jiu just sat down on the toilet and heard the urging voice of the masked man. But just as the masked man's voice fell, Stephanie popped her head out above the cubicle. It must be said that such a scene is too terrifying. Wen Jiu is not afraid of ghosts, but the other person has exaggerated light blue eyeshadow on his face, and a butterfly pattern is outlined on it with black eyeliner, and there are several shining rhinestones on the wings. Such exaggerated eye makeup must be outstanding on Halloween, but it is a bit scary in the dark and damp toilet. Are you the number 99 seedling? I've heard of you. Stephanie touched her trouser pocket and found 2 candies. She peeled one and swallowed it and threw the other one out. Wen Jiu didn't know where the man took out the candy from. The other person threw it gently and it landed steadily in her palm. Eat it quickly, I'll keep you safe. Wen Jiu was about to take a closer look at the candy, but there was another urging voice outside the door. She could only stuff the candy into her pocket, then put on her clothes and left the cubicle. Before leaving, she looked back, but the toilet was empty and there was no sound at all, as if everything she had just experienced was just her illusion. Young seedling number 99, you spent a total of 1 minute and 8 seconds this time. I will deduct your points according to the regulations. The masked man opened his light screen panel after he finished speaking, which reminded Wen Jiu that her wisdom ring was missing. Speaking of which, the wisdom ring she used was customized by Zikingayu, and she didn't know if it was thrown away by those people as garbage. She stood there and waited quietly for a few seconds, and the masked man put away the light screen panel and turned around. Then the other party stretched out his hand and gently lifted it up, and the iron handcuffs on the ground floated up, and in the blink of an eye, they handcuffed Wen Jiu's hands and feet again. After doing all this, the masked man turned around and walked forward quickly. Wen Jiu could only follow him with doubts. Although she was now supervised by the masked man and the warrior, the girl in the toilet was obviously very free, which meant that young seedling could move freely here. She remembered that the masked man had said that her danger level was A level, and perhaps this supervision was determined based on the degree of danger. In other words, if she could reduce her own danger level, she could get rid of the masked man and the warriors following. This is the second update of today. Thank you little angels for your support. 030. I don't mean to abuse the heroine. This is the main storyline. ORZ. Wen Jiu will become more and more powerful. CAC. Chapter 494. Caught and jailed 3. Young seedling number 99. You have 10 minutes to order and eat. Compared to the short 1 minute allowed for going to the toilet, this 10-minute meal time is more than enough. After that, Wen Jiu was brought to a bright room by the masked man, where she finally saw the young seedlings other than herself, and the mysterious girl. These young seedlings were all wearing the same dark green uniforms without exception, and they lined up in front of the food window in an orderly manner with iron plates. However, there were only footsteps and the slight collision of bowls and chopsticks, and there was no lively atmosphere of students eating at the 3047 Academy. When they saw Wen Jiu being brought in by the masked man, they did not show any emotion, but just walked around with their own iron plates. Young seedling number 99, please go and get your own meal. The masked man took a few steps back after he finished speaking, as if he could not go deep into the cafeteria hall. He removed the iron handcuffs on Wen Jiu again, and then waited with the soldiers. Hearing this, Wen Jiu could only follow the other young seedlings closely through his own observation. She found that the activities of these seedlings were regular. They walked in a straight line, took the iron plate, and then went to the window to receive the food. Then they sat down, wherever there was an empty seat. After finding a seat, they quickly finished the food on the iron plate. Then they put the iron plate and bowls and chopsticks into the sink, and finally left through another door along the wall. She carefully observed and moved forward. When it was her turn, she finally found that the so-called receiving meals here meant choosing nutrient solution. She chose the flavor she wanted on the electronic panel, and then a robot came to deliver the nutrient solution. She couldn't help but feel a little confused about why some seedlings had food to eat. But she couldn't ask the robot, nor could she talk to other seedlings. She could only find an empty seat with the iron plate filled with nutrient solution and sit down. There was nothing to chew slowly on this small bottle of nutrient solution, and the seedlings in the cafeteria kept silent tacitly. Even if she wanted to delay time for a while, it would be meaningless. So Wen Jiu opened the lid and drank it quickly, then stood up and walked towards the pool with the iron plate and empty bottle. During this time, the masked man and the soldiers stood at the door to observe, and she found that there were 2 young seedlings who were also supervised. Both of them were full of fierceness and anger, as if they were going to beat someone up in the next second. I really don't understand why she was supervised when she was weak and pitiful. However, it was useless for her to think more, so she could only walk slowly towards the masked man. According to the walking pattern of the young seedlings, she should leave from the right door. But now that she was supervised by the masked man, she had to follow the masked man. Young seedling number 99 has 7 minutes to order and eat. If you meet the requirements, there is no need to deduct points. The masked man reported as a routine, and then turned around and walked out the door. Then he took Wen Jiu for a stroll, but no matter where he went, there were 6 soldiers following him, and he never took Wen Jiu out of this strange building. The morning exercise time is over. Seedling number 99 can rest in the room by himself. The masked man sent Wen Jiu back to the previous metal room and connected the chains and iron handcuffs before leaving. After he and the soldiers left, only Wen Jiu and the mattress were left in the room. She lay on the mattress with mixed feelings and began to seriously recall the things she had just seen. Judging from the places she went to, it would not be easy to escape from here. Everywhere she went was made of strange metal blocks, but she didn't know the principle of the metal blocks after looking at them for a long time. The masked man also said that she was in a coma for 128 hours, and the morning exercise time just ended. Roughly speaking, if we count the time she slept in the hospital, She should have been in a coma for a full 5 days plus 8 hours, and now it should be 8 to 9 in the morning. At this time, Wen Jiu couldn't help but regret why she was only busy making money in the academy and didn't go to the library to learn more about interstellar knowledge. But then she thought it was useless to check. These metal blocks were definitely not simple metals. They were probably made by some kind of technological means. So how did she get caught here? Why couldn't she remember anything? Even the few fragments that she could recall in her mind were only about her being entangled by vines and finally fainting. Apart from being able to analyze that there was something wrong with Xiaoli and the nutrient solution, she couldn't find any useful information from it. Thinking of this, she suddenly remembered what she had forgotten. When the cloaked man suddenly attacked the East Lake scenic area at night, it was clear that he wanted to capture all 4 of them. So the question is, where are the other 3 unlucky guys? When Wen Jiu was thinking seriously, he saw the metal blocks not far away began to rotate again. It seemed that someone was going to enter her room to do something. For some reason, she suddenly felt like a captive animal in a zoo, where tourists could come and go as they pleased, and visit at will. Seedling number 99, you need to take today's sleeping potion. Because your body is in a weak state, you need more sleep to get enough energy. When Jiu glanced and saw that it was the masked man again, it seemed that the other party should be specifically in charge of her. However, every time the masked man appeared, it was just a routine, and he didn't give her the opportunity to ask questions or find information. After the voice fell, the masked man took a bottle of potion from the soldier next to him. He walked in front of Wen Jiu, opened the seal of the potion, and handed it to her. Wen Jiu had no way to deal with this. She was now trapped in this ghost place, and she couldn't escape, even if she wanted to, because she didn't know how to open the passage. She was asked to close her eyes again when she came back from the walk. Obviously, her room was separated from a place that could not be reached by normal means. Otherwise, the masked man would not ask her to close her eyes. After all, under normal circumstances, taking an elevator or something, there is no need to close her eyes to prevent her from escaping. So when Jiu took the potion bottle with both hands with difficulty and then drank the liquid inside, the masked man seemed very satisfied with her cooperation, and even his tone of voice was tinged with joy. Seedling number 99 cooperated well in taking the medicine this time. I will increase your points according to the regulations. After that, he took the bottle of medicine and walked out, leaving Wen Jiu in the room with a dazed look. Points? She remembered that when she came out of the toilet before, the other party said that points would be deducted according to the regulations. So what are these points? What is the use of points after they are obtained? Today's third update is delivered on time. Thanks again to the little angels for their support and love. 030. Chapter 495. This is not jail, this is heaven 1. When Wen Jiu woke up again, it was already dark. In this strange house full of metal blocks and without windows, she couldn't tell whether it was day or night outside. But it seemed that someone was always watching her outside. As soon as she woke up, she heard a mechanical voice telling her that it was exactly 8 o'clock in the evening, and it was also her last time to go out for exercise. Seedling number 99, come out. The masked man didn't even bother to say anything extra this time. After shouting, he stood at the door and removed her chains. Seeing this, Wen Jiu walked over obediently. She didn't expect the masked man to be very nice. Then she followed the other party and went out for exercise according to the daytime process. The only difference was that she went to a strange room this time. The room was made of a kind of obsidian with purple glitter. There were layers of thick white fog that could not be dissolved. In addition, there was only a dim crystal ball. I don't know why the masked man took her there. At that time, he only let her walk around the crystal ball a few times and ordered her to touch the crystal ball. After a set of procedures, the crystal ball did not react at all. In the end, the masked man just sighed in disappointment and took her away. Seedling number 99, take the medicine. It seemed that the masked man was in a bad mood, and his tone when he came to deliver the medicine was not as gentle as during the day. Although his tone of speech was always calm, Wen Jiu could still hear some dissatisfaction from it. However, it didn't matter to her whether the masked man was happy or not. Anyway, the other party couldn't shock her for no reason. Therefore, Wen Jiu didn't ask aloud, but just took the medicine and drank it all. There will be another test at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. If your danger level is reduced, you can leave the small black room. The masked man said this coldly before leaving, and Wen Jiu, who was a little sleepy, immediately became energetic. It turned out that she was living in a small black room now, which means there are other places to live. Then the question is, how can she reduce her danger level? Unfortunately, the masked man didn't answer her. The other party said this and left with people. Wen Jiu wanted to continue thinking about this problem, but the sleepiness brought by the potion soon overwhelmed her, and she fell asleep before she could analyze anything. At this time, on the other side, still haven't found King Jiu and the others' whereabouts. Zizuha has lived for nearly 50 years, and he never thought that he would have a time of regret. In just a few days, his black hair has grown a lot of silver threads, and the whole person looks like he has aged 10 years. Not yet. Zizuha stood beside him in a suit and tie, with a pair of peach blossom eyes with a faint dark blue, which showed that he had not slept well for a long time. Since King Jiu was kidnapped on the way home, his family has been grieving and unable to sleep all night. Especially his mother Fang Xinyu, who fainted after hearing the news and only woke up in the hospital yesterday. For this reason, his father and he ran around all day, using all the connections they could use, and searching for all the information they could find, but they couldn't find the whereabouts of King Jiu himself. If it was just a simple kidnapping and extortion, it would be fine. Even if all the property of the Z family was spent, as long as King Jiu was safe, everything would be fine. But the problem is that this time it was not a simple kidnapping and extortion. Not long after King Jiu got into trouble that night, his friends also lost contact. Zizuha was thinking when he received a new message. After clicking it, he couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise. But this surprise was fleeting and was soon replaced by anger. Father, this kidnapping case is probably related to the Liu family, and the White family has also made a lot of efforts for this. He placed the light screen panel in front of Zizuha, on which was the information collected by his men. They are so bold. Zizuha threw the teacup out in anger after just one glance. It's the Liu family and the White family again. Do they really think that our Z family has no power and influence? Seeing this, Zizuha quickly took out a bottle of medicine from the Ziji space. Father, don't be angry. Don't get yourself hurt by anger. After the voice fell, Zizuha just leaned on the chair and sighed. How can I not be angry? That's your own brother, my own son. Your mother is still in the hospital crying. How can I calm down? Zizuha was stunned when he heard this. He knew that his father and mother were very sad, so how could he not be sad about it? Although he often quarreled with King Jiu and bullied her as a sandbag. But now that something really happened, he just felt extremely regretful. These days, he handed over all the matters of OS Pharmaceuticals to his assistant, and he was busy collecting information everywhere to inquire about King Jiu's whereabouts. After several days of tossing and turning, he finally received a valid message. I'll go find someone from the Liu family now. I don't believe I can't find King Jiu. The more Zizuha thought about it, the more furious he became. He slammed the table and wanted to get up and leave. Seeing this, Zizuha quickly pushed him back to the chair. Father, I will take care of this matter. You should go to the hospital to visit your mother first. I promise to let the Liu family hand over the person. No, the people of the Liu family are the most cunning and insidious. And those people from the White family, especially Bruce White. Before Zizuha finished speaking, a stranger walked in. He half squinted his eyes and watched the other person approach step by step, and then he realized that the person was someone he knew. Good afternoon, Master Z and Master Z, Zhu Wangming, with a messy beard and messy hair. What's the matter that makes you so angry? Seeing this, Zizuha couldn't help but be a little stunned. He remembered that when he saw Zhu Wangming a week ago, he was still well dressed and gentle. He didn't expect that he would become so unkempt in just a few days, but he could understand it. Zhu Wangming was not at the scene when the fire broke out in the 3047 hospital. Later, during the search and rescue, he found that his lover was burned beyond recognition. Although he still had a glimmer of life when he was found, he was still unconscious after rescue. If he encountered such a painful thing, he would probably fall into a state of depression. Zhu Wangming seemed to know that he looked a little scary, but he only fiddled with his bangs for a few times, and then casually slumped on the sofa in the living room of the Z family. Dr. Zhu, are you okay? Visitors are guests. No matter how sad and painful Zizhuo was, as the head of the family, he had to try his best to stay calm. He and Zhu Wangming had only met once or twice because the other party had served as Ziking Gai's attending physician. Hearing this, Zhu Wangming only smiled self-deprecatingly and replied, not being able to eat or sleep is good, right? Dr. Zhu, don't be too sad about Teacher Yu's matter. Zizou couldn't think of how to comfort him for a moment. But before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by the other party. Don't worry about Teacher Yu's matter. I came here for Ziking Gai and other children. Do you want to know their whereabouts? After the words fell, Zizou and Zizhuo both showed expressions of surprise and suspicion. Good. Today's first update is delivered on time. Thank you little angels for your support. 030. The little author swears that he is not abusing Jiu Kak. Little angels, don't just ignore the article Kak. Chapter 496. This is not jail, this is heaven too. Seedling number 99. The danger level has been temporarily reduced to B+. You can leave the small black room and be released from supervision. Hearing this, Wen Jiu, who was thrown on the mattress again, was quite excited, but she still kept a calm expression on her face. It seems that, as long as she throws away the idea of escaping, she can indeed reduce her danger level. She had previously doubted whether the black catheter could read her thoughts, and now it seems that some of her thoughts can indeed be collected and read by the black catheter. Seedling number 99 has been approved to leave the small black room. Please ask the supervisor to take seedling number 99 to the residence. As soon as the masked man read out the results of this test, a cold mechanical voice sounded in the room. As soon as the voice fell, the iron chains and iron handcuffs on Wen Jiu were removed in an instant. She couldn't help but look at the masked man curiously, waiting for him to take her to the residence. To be honest, she thought she would spend the rest of her life in prison. I didn't expect that she would be released from prison one day. I just don't know if the so-called residence will be a new cage. If it is similar to the current iron small black room, it would be better to drag her out and bury her directly. But Wen Jiu soon stopped thinking that way, because she found that she was not in jail, but was on vacation in paradise on earth. The masked man took her to a door after many twists and turns, and just when she thought that this was her so-called residence, the other party suddenly opened the door and pushed her in. Wen Jiu thought she would fall directly to the ground, but she didn't expect that she would fall at a very fast speed. The mist continued to rise around her, and her mind began to work rapidly. So her residence is a cemetery? She is not ready to be burned to ashes. If God can give her another chance to choose, she would rather be in jail in a small dark room than be forced to jump off the building. But in the next second, Wen Jiu heard a puff. The soft touch was a little wet, and she couldn't help but open her eyes and look around. She was actually in a huge bubble, and the masked man who pushed her down was standing next to her. Wen Jiu was still thinking about what was going on when he saw the other party open the light screen panel and say, "Seedling number 99 performed well in this test. I will increase your points according to the regulations." Hearing this, Wen Jiu couldn't help but clench her fists. But she couldn't figure out what was going on at the moment, so she could only suppress her anger and stay calm. After the masked man submitted the results of the record, he lightly touched the transparent wall of the bubble twice. The originally still bubble began to rise slowly, and when Jiu took advantage of her supine position to glance out, the waves rolled up and hit one after another, and the thick clouds and fog obscured most of the scenery, making it impossible for her to judge where she was. Therefore, the only thing she could know was that the building she was in just now was built in the air. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but move her sight upwards. No, it's not just one building built in the air. There is a huge floating island in the sky, and it is full of high-rise buildings made of metal. Wen Jiu just opened her eyes and looked for a few seconds, and suddenly a current spread throughout her body, and she curled up in pain. Seedling number 99 violated the rules once. The masked man's voice was still cold. You are forbidden to look outside while floating. Wen Jiu wanted to stand up and scold him after hearing this. How could she know what the rules of this hellhole were? However, she couldn't. Although she was no longer restricted by the iron handcuffs, she was still electrocuted by the masked man and unable to fight back. This meant that there must be something on her body that could restrict her movements. She must not act rashly before she finds out what it is. Otherwise, she will be locked back in the small dark room, and it will be very difficult to get out again. So Wen Jiu clenched her teeth and endured the pain until the tingling sensation brought by the current disappeared. She gasped heavily, closed her eyes, and lay on her back in the bubble. She would keep a good record of these accounts and report them when she found a chance in the future. Otherwise she would write her name upside down. It was unknown how long this strange bubble floated. Wen Jiu could only feel the bubble drifting east and west with her eyes closed. It was very difficult for her to remember the route here. Seedling number 99, you have arrived at your residence. The masked man's voice had just fallen when the bubble burst in an instant. Before Wen Jiu could react, she was thrown directly onto the grass. She supported herself with one hand and stood up swiftly, only to find that she was in a garden. In addition to the green grass, there were also several clusters of flowers and even a few lush fruit trees. Not far away stood a pink and white house, which looked like a small two-story villa. Is this really her residence? Wasn't she arrested and imprisoned? Wen Jiu looked at the masked man with suspicion, and the other party just stepped forward in silence. Therefore, she could only follow the masked man closely, while carefully observing the environment here. For some reason, she suddenly remembered the last meal she had heard of before. It is said that before sending prisoners to prison, they will be given a full meal. Could this be her last meal? This is where you will live for the next period of time. The masked man walked to the door of the villa and asked her to enter her biometric information. Come and open the door. Wen Jiu always felt something was strange. She had just come out of the small dark room and now she was suddenly going to live in such a luxurious house. It was hard for her not to suspect that there would be some death trap inside. So she opened the door and quickly stepped back, fearing that a bow and arrow would be shot directly from inside. However, no attack appeared, only a little fox lay at the door. I will come to inspect every morning at 8 o'clock in the future, and I will take you to the plum courtyard for training. There is a seedling code in the living room. Please act according to the code. The masked man rarely said such a long string of words, and Wen Jiu also learned a lot of information from it. First of all, she is now judged as a high quality seedling, so she has such special treatment. There will be a seedling rating at the end of each month, and if she does not reach the high quality level at that time, she will be downgraded. After being downgraded, she can no longer live here and must return to a residence that meets the level. This masked man will be her nursery master in the future. He will make the most suitable training plan for her, and she must complete those training plans seriously. Otherwise points will be deducted, and she will be punished. As for the points, they can be used to exchange for free time. That is, time to do whatever she wants without being supervised by the nursery master and other personnel. Of course, it is impossible to leave the base. As long as the points are enough, you can also exchange for the use time of the wisdom ring, but the wisdom ring in exchange is specially made in the base, and it must be used under the supervision of the nursery master. There is no training today. You can rest in the residence. This is your pet, which is randomly assigned to you by the system. After the masked man finished speaking, he stepped into the wide area. Wen Jiu didn't see clearly what he did. He saw a bubble wrapped around him, and he disappeared in the next second. Today's second update is also delivered on time. Thank you again for the support and love of the little angels. Bobo 030. Chapter 497. This is not jail, this is heaven 3. Seeing this, Wen Jiu only lamented that she really knew too little about high technology. However, she did not rush in to admire her residence, but rushed to the edge of the grass to test it. As expected, this residence is also on the floating island. Wen Jiu lay on the edge of the grass and looked down carefully and could only see the endless deep sea and layers of clouds. She thought seriously and stood up, then ran to the fruit tree to pick an apple, and then came to the edge again, and threw it down. Bang! The apple fell only 2 meters, and fell on a layer of light net, and turned into powder in the blink of an eye. Then she tried to throw apples out, and into the air, and those apples touched the light net, and turned into powder without exception. It seems that this time she really can't fly away, and this overwhelming light net has wiped out all the escape plans she can think of. It seems that all she can do now is to roll back to her residence, and wait for the masked man to take her to training tomorrow. Maybe she would meet other youngsters during training, and who knows what useful information she could get from them. Wen Jiu still walked around unwillingly, but she was the only one on the huge floating island. She returned to a life of being alone and helpless, and her family and friends all disappeared. Alas. She couldn't help but sigh and continued to walk. However, the area of this floating island was not very large, and she walked around it in less than 20 minutes. Therefore, when Jiu finally turned back to the door of the villa, the little fox was still lying lazily, and a pair of plush slippers had been prepared at the entrance. The style seemed to be quite similar to the ones she bought in the supermarket. Thinking of this, she suddenly felt a chill. She rushed in without even changing her shoes. The layout of the living room was exactly the same as her home, and even the style of the sofa was the same. The bedding in the bedroom, the kitchen utensils in the kitchen, and the decoration style in the room were all the same. Oh my god. When Jiu finally resisted the urge to swear, and she began to wonder when she was being targeted. If she had to find something different in this house, it would be the extra second floor and the little fox. She stepped up the stairs with caution. Unexpectedly, there were no rooms on the second floor, just a very spacious hall. And one wall was full of transparent floor-to-ceiling windows, and the house looked bright and warm when the light shone in. In the light-proof corner, there were some shovels and hoes, as well as many overlapping flower pots and seeds. When Jiu walked over with a suspicious look on his face, and recognized these farming tools at a glance, this reminded her of the masked man's words. The other party said that the residence was also customized for her, and everything here was arranged according to her preferences. So in the eyes of others, her hobby is farming. Thinking of this, when Jiu ran back to the first floor. As expected, the refrigerator was filled with all kinds of fruits, vegetables and meats, full of everything, and even one refrigerator was not enough, so she prepared 2. Even the bowls, plates, chopsticks, and spoons in the cupboard were ready, and the various seasonings on the chopping board were neatly arranged, which made her feel like she was not in prison but at home. Bing 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 bing. When Jiu was in a trance, when she suddenly heard a strange cry. She couldn't help but follow the sound, and found that it was the fox that woke up. The masked man said that this was a pet randomly assigned by the system, but she disliked the fox the most among all animals. Master said that foxes have the heaviest demonic energy, and foxes have high spirituality and comprehension, and are the easiest animals to cultivate into spirits. As a cultivator, she would naturally reject this kind of demon. Why isn't her pet a cat or a snow leopard? Wait, snow leopard? Why would she have such an idea? She doesn't like snow leopards at all. When Jiu was wondering why she had such an idea, and then she saw the round and furry fox coming. The other party lay down in front of her and yawned, and the big white tail behind it swayed slowly. Damn, it's so cute. Forget it, all foxes are demons. Master also said that all things have spirits and we should respect life. Little fox, are you hungry? When Jiu thought that she couldn't escape for a while, so she might as well fill her stomach first and then think about the problem. She didn't even have the nutrient solution to drink this morning, and was taken away from the building by the masked man. After he finished speaking, the little fox just lay lazily on the ground, and seemed to be sleepy, and closed his eyes again. Seeing this, when Jiu didn't say anything more, just turned around, and went to the refrigerator, to find 2 tomatoes and eggs. Considering the existence of the little fox, she also found a piece of chicken breast. She knew that foxes love to eat chicken, and she believed that this one would be no exception. It must be said that Wen Jiu has a very good advantage, which is her strong adaptability. Before she first came here, she could only survive in the garbage dump, and it only took her one night to adapt. So now, even if she is caught and imprisoned, she can find a glimmer of hope in all kinds of sadness, so that she can quickly adapt to the environment and survive. And this place is better than the garbage dump anyway. Although it is a prison, at least there is food and shelter, so she doesn't have to worry about food and shelter for the time being. The more Wen Jiu thought about it, the more she felt that it was no big deal. At least she could eat and wear warm clothes now, but her freedom was restricted. But she would definitely find her chance to escape. She couldn't just stay here and eat and wait for death. Little fox, come and eat. Maybe because there was only her and the little fox here, she was particularly patient with the little fox. She put the cool boiled chicken breast in a bowl, and this bowl would be the other's special bowl in the future. Although this house was decorated according to her preferences, no utensils for raising animals were prepared. Therefore, Wen Jiu could only use the existing things as pet supplies for the time being. As soon as the voice fell, the sleepy little fox stretched on the ground, and then shook its soft fur like cotton and walked over. Here, yours. Wen Jiu put the bowl of chicken breast on the ground, then picked up a spoon, and mixed the scrambled eggs with tomatoes and rice. The distinct rice grains were stained with light red soup. The sour and sweet tomatoes were more fragrant after being stir-fried. The soft and fragrant egg yellow was tempting to absorb the sour and sweet soup. With these 3 ingredients combined, she could eat 3 bowls of rice. And for some reason, she felt that the tomatoes in the refrigerator were better than those sold outside. Not only were they juicy, but each one also exuded a faint sweet aroma. Before running away, she must ask where the ingredients were imported from. After Wen Jiu had a full meal, she put away the dishes and chopsticks, and then went up the stairs to the 2nd floor. As the saying goes, since she is here, since she has the tools, she will plant some land for fun. Today's 3rd update has also been delivered. Please check it, my lovely little angels. Thank you again for your support. Chapter 498, Still in Jail 1. Wen Jiu is a person who is particularly good at finding fun for herself. If she grabs a little happiness and hope, she can be very happy for several days. It's not that she is naturally optimistic, but for her, it is better to think about more things worth being happy to please herself than to think about troubles and make herself miserable. In the past, before she was picked up by her master and brought back to live in the sect, she had always survived with this concept. She had experienced so many difficult things, and this kind of life of house arrest was not difficult. Anyway, she firmly believed that she would find her chance to escape, so she might as well do something that would make her happy. So Wen Jiu walked out with farming tools and a few packets of seeds. In some ways, she liked this place very much. The grassland here is wide and rich, like a green carpet. The soil is also fertile black soil that is very suitable for planting, and there is a clear shallow beach behind the small villa. The fruit trees planted around are extremely lush, and they are just in the fruit season, with red everywhere. Beautiful flowers in full bloom can be seen everywhere, colorful and with a faint fragrance. Everything looks so beautiful. It would be even better if she was not under house arrest here. Thinking of this, Wen Jiu picked up the shovel and started digging the soil. During the time she kept digging, the little fox came over several times. There was not even a caterpillar here except her and the little fox, so she could only talk to the other party. Just like when she lived in the garbage dump before, she talked to the wandering mice. Little fox, what do you want to eat for lunch? It seems a bit too bland to always eat boiled chicken breast. How about I grill some chicken breast for you, so you won't get sick easily if you change the taste? Wen Jiu muttered while digging the soil, but the little fox just dozed on the clean grass and didn't pay any attention to her at all. But she didn't care about these, just regarded the little fox as a person to talk to and said a few words from time to time. All these images were recorded by hidden surveillance equipment, and every minute and every second was synchronized to the light screen of the supervision center. Seedling number 99 likes to be lively and afraid of loneliness. It is recommended to arrange a suitable seedling as a neighbor for her. I don't agree. Seedling number 99 has not yet adapted to the seedling breeding plan, and her risk level has always been high. If she lives on the floating island with other seedlings, I'm afraid it will affect other seedlings. It is better to make a judgment after the seedling rating review at the end of the month. At that time, a seedling can be arranged as her floating island neighbor to gain the trust of number 99 and reduce the risk level. Several masked people stared at the light screen in unison, and someone was recording while they were talking. Although everyone wore a dark green mask, the bright red pattern on it was different. They watched Wen Jiu's every move intently. Even if she was just squatting on the ground to choose suitable seeds, these people had to analyze her starting point and what she was thinking. Wen Jiu, the person being observed, seemed to be unaware of all this and was still carefully choosing seeds. Let's plant some potatoes and carrots first, and some peppers and shallots. She hadn't planted for a long time, so she could only choose based on her experience. But when she was looking for seeds, she found a bag of seeds that looked familiar yet unfamiliar. The black and extremely round appearance looked very much like the seeds Zhu Wangming had given her before. So Wen Jiu took out a few seeds and ran back to the second floor to move a flower pot. Then he shoveled some moist black soil into the pot and then buried the seeds in it. During this time, the little fox was napping next to him, opening his eyes from time to glance over here and then changing his position to continue sleeping. This kind of life is quite leisurely for Wen Jiu, and she really likes this kind of life, but the premise of everything is that she is not under house arrest. Otherwise, no matter how comfortable she is, it won't work. She has never thought of being a bat with broken wings. Wen Jiu was busy until the brightest light at noon, and then he picked up the remaining tools and called the little fox back to the house. Just before entering the house, she looked up at the sky and felt that the sun here was a little strange. So she couldn't help but stand at the door and look up for a while until the little fox cried. She closed the door and cleaned up the dirt on her body. No 99 is still very vigilant now. It's best to arrange her to start training as soon as possible. I have notified No 99's nursery teacher and will take her to training tomorrow. But I don't think No 99's training should be too urgent. Try to arrange her to start with gentle training. What are the conditions of the two seedlings that came with number 99? It's best to avoid them from meeting at present, so that the nursery teacher won't have difficulty taming number 99. These masked men seem to be tireless, standing in front of the light curtain to observe Wen Jiu and discussing how to formulate a training plan. Their current condition is not good, and I don't recommend number 99 to contact them. What's more, there is a gap between high quality seedlings and ordinary seedlings. According to the regulations of the base, they should not contact each other. The masked man standing not far away finished speaking, and the staff responsible for controlling the light curtain immediately called up another picture. There were two little people standing close together. They were different from the numb seedlings next to them. Although the two people on the screen were trying their best to keep a calm expression, their shaking bodies revealed their inner fear. They have already started to receive seedling training, but their adaptability is not as strong as number 99. If they can't survive this month, I'm afraid they can only be downgraded to inferior seedlings. Everyone has their own destiny. Even if they come from the same place, they may not have the same abilities. If they don't live up to their expectations and become inferior seedlings, they can only blame themselves for not being able to do enough. The masked people were already accustomed to this kind of scene. When 95% of the seedlings in the base first arrived, they were either depressed because of fear, or they were trying hard to control their emotions like this. They had to catch hundreds of seedlings like Wen Jiu who had strong adaptability before they could meet one. Moreover, the seedlings had to adapt sooner or later. The rules in the base were completely different from those in the academy. If they couldn't adapt, they would be eliminated. Elimination does not mean that the seedlings can go home. The base has its own way to deal with these people. Turn it off. There is nothing to see in the pictures of ordinary seedlings. The masked people obviously have no interest in ordinary seedlings. They would rather watch Wen Jiu digging the soil for a morning than think about and analyze the behavior of ordinary seedlings. The first update of today has been delivered. Thank you little angels for your support and love. 030. Chapter 499 Still in jail too. Eat melons, beans and rabbits. Surprise. the recipe provider of snowflake crisps suddenly disappeared. Eat melons, beans and rabbits. Come eat melons, babies. There are so many melons this week that I can't eat them all. First, Crown Food lost the first trial, then the female star Jin Yeon was involved in another scandal, and the big anchor Leo Zhu of Bicker announced that he would stop broadcasting. Eat melons, beans and rabbits. Just when I thought that these melons were enough to eat, I didn't expect that there was also a melon about Gong Zifarke's disappearance. It is said that Gong Zifarke has suddenly disappeared for almost a week. Let's see if we can see Gong Zifarke resume broadcasting next week. Ming Yehan looked at these star blogs with a headache. In addition to asking people to suppress the news temporarily, he couldn't find a way to solve it at present. A few days ago, he had a good chat with Wen Jiu and talked about the preliminary plan to continue to cooperate in launching Nougat. As a result, the other party suddenly disappeared a week ago. For this reason, he contacted everyone he could contact, and now he just needed to go to Planet 3047 to find him in person. Moreover, not only could he not contact Wen Jiu, he couldn't even find his guardian. Although the Crown Food incident had come to an end and Wen Jiu didn't need to provide any more evidence, Wu Yao Food still wanted to continue to develop and must continue to cooperate with the other party. At present, the popularity of snowflake crisps has been rising, so he wanted to take the opportunity to strike while the iron is hot and get the formula of Nougat so that he could gain a firm foothold in the snack market. Unexpectedly, Wen Jiu just disappeared out of thin air, and Ming Yehan wanted to go to the planet where the other party was. Brother, I just called you for a long time. Why didn't you respond to me? Ming Yu finally survived a week of school life. As soon as the holiday came, he hurried to the company to find his brother, thinking that he would take him out for a ride and eat something good. As a result, Ming Yehan was in a daze in front of the light screen panel, and he didn't respond, even after he called for a long time. Sorry, Xiao. Brother was thinking about work just now. Ming Yehan looked at Ming Yu apologetically. He was really bored these days. Seeing this, Ming Yu took out a talisman from the space of his wisdom ring. Here. This is one of the few magical talismans left before I lost contact with Master Sunday. Although he was forced to replace his wisdom ring, Lucy I was not so perverted as to ask him to hand over all his things. So all the talismans he bought before were preserved, but he did not think that he would come to this point at the beginning, so he only bought some useful but useless insect repellent talismans, and this only one that is no longer available. He originally planned to post this talisman in the workshop. According to Master Sun, it can help him put aside distracting thoughts and calm down. Brother, it's the Master Sun you know. Ming Yu slapped the talisman that had not yet been folded into a small triangle on the table. Buying this talisman cost a lot of my pocket money. Brother, you must accept it. After saying that, Ming Yehan just raised his eyes and looked at the talisman. He naturally knew the so-called Master Sun, Sun Badao, who bribed Mingai with just a few words and successfully helped Mingai resist an injury with his spell. In his mother's words, Sun Badao was Mingai and his lifesaver. But to be honest, he didn't believe in these metaphysical theories. It was just that his brother and mother both admired Sun Badao very much, so he refrained from saying anything. Okay, thank you for Xiao's kindness. Ming Yehan was already a mature adult, knowing what to say and what not to say. What's more, this was Mingai's heartfelt gift, and he would definitely not refuse it just like that. However, as soon as he agreed, Mingai said excitedly, then I'll help you stick it on the door frame. Master Sun said it must be posted high. So Ming Yehan looked at his brother, picked up a chair, and ran to the door. He was helpless about this, so he wanted to change the subject. Xiao Yu, how are you doing in school this week? I heard from my mother that you have already chosen a credit activity. Oh, that's right. Ming Yu had just found the glue that would not leave traces. School is like that, except for classes. It's classes. It's more interesting to go out to participate in activities and do tasks. Hearing this, Ming Yehan couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He remembered that Ming Yu used to dislike participating in activities the most, and he also hated the rules of taking tasks in the Imperial Capital Military Academy. Unexpectedly, after being promoted to a senior grade for a semester, he actually liked participating in activities and taking tasks. Then which activity do you plan to do to make up the credits? Ming-Yahan put away the light screen panel. Based on my experience, I would recommend you to participate in the information collection activity. In addition to the required courses every semester, the Imperial Capital Military Academy also arranges various off-campus activities for students. Participating in any activity can earn credits, and these credits are added to the credits accumulated in school. Only after reaching the passing line can you enter the next semester. These activities are usually not too difficult to complete, so students are very active in participating. After all, if you fail to pass the credits, you will be forced to retake the course. When he finished speaking, Ming-Yu had also pasted the talisman. The golden paper was obviously of poor quality, but the vermilion handwriting on it was so vigorous that it perfectly concealed the poor quality of the paper. Ming-Yahan has always loved collecting calligraphy and paintings. He originally wanted to take down the talisman after Ming-Yu left, but when he saw the elegant handwriting, he immediately gave up the idea. Brother, I'll post it here for you. Ming-Yu jumped off the chair neatly. I wanted to sign up for information collection before, but my brother Yan wanted to sign up for another activity, so I signed up for it too. Who doesn't want to complete activities and get credits easily? But now he admires and follows Lu Yan, so he followed him to sign up for the new activities of the military academy. I heard that it was to go to Brickstar to participate in a friendly visit. Although he didn't know what a friendly visit was, it was always right to go with Lu Yan. Hearing this, Ming-Yahan frowned slightly. You'd better have less contact with people from the Lu family. Brother, I know. But Lu Yan is really different. He just seems to be more indifferent. Ming-Yu interrupted his brother directly. He knew that Ming-Yahan was angry because of Ziji, but after getting along with Lu Yan for this period of time, he sincerely felt that the other party was a good person, at least much better than his previous friends. Although Lu Yan was quiet and didn't like to talk to people, he often helped him in public classes and taught him some skills in handling mecha parts, which was too precious for him as a mecha fan. Ming-Yahan had nothing to say about this. He respected his brother's choice very much, so he could only seriously remind him, I remember that it's still early to carry out extracurricular activities. Remember to tell me and my mother before you leave, so that I can prepare some necessary things for you to bring. After the words fell, Ming-Yu smiled as brightly as a flower. Today's second update has also been delivered. Please check it out. My lovely little ANGELS equals W equals. Chapter 500 Still in Jail 3. Gongzi Farke is not a well-known anchor, so the news of her sudden disappearance did not cause much trouble. It only triggered a lot of discussion in the Baka Food Forum and her personal blog. Some people speculated that she was too busy in real life and temporarily quit live broadcasting, while others maliciously speculated that she ran away because of a guilty conscience. In short, everything failed to reach the ears of the person involved. Because Wen Jiu, the person involved, was locked in a closed space. Are you sick? Gilu. Is this how your organization trains people? At 8 o'clock in the morning, the masked man came to pick her up on time and then took a bubble to the building. Wen Jiu thought the so-called training was similar to that of the 3047 Academy, but she didn't expect that she would be locked in a box by the masked man as soon as she entered the room. Before she could react, water began to fill the box in the next second. Seedling number 99, you have 59 seconds to find a way to escape. The masked man stood motionless not far away, as if he didn't care about her life or death at all. Wen Jiu was already wearing very thin clothes, and after being soaked in cold water, she felt trembling all over. The water level was almost up to her neck. If she couldn't find a way to escape, she would have to live in the box forever. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. Wen Jiu was very glad that she could swim. From the outside, the box looked only as big as a fish tank, the kind often seen in restaurants, which could hold a tank of fish and various decorations. But after she was forced into it by the masked man, she found that the inside was big enough to accommodate 10 of her, so she could swim around in it, looking for ways to escape. During this time, the masked man just stood outside, sliding the light screen panel in his hand from time to time, recording her performance and results this time. Wen Jiu first tried to break it with her supernatural power, but found that the seemingly thin outer wall was much stronger than she imagined. No matter how her vines hit it, they couldn't break the outer wall, but she didn't want to summon the deep sea blue flame to try to burn it. Ordinary flames naturally cannot burn in water, but her deep sea blue flame was originally found from the bottom of the sea. Moreover, when in water, the temperature will be higher, and the power will be greater than in normal conditions. Gurgle. Gurgle. For some reason, Wen Jiu felt that the masked man wanted to force her to summon the deep sea blue flame. Because the other party had been concentrating on observing her movements, and after seeing her summon the vines, he shook his head slightly. But she just didn't use the deep sea blue flame. Why hasn't number 99 taken action yet? This box is specially made according to her situation. If she can directly use the firepower, she can burn the outer wall and escape. Ordinary flames cannot burn in water. If she can summon the deep blue flame in the intelligence, she can prove her value and confirm our guess. But the premise is that the intelligence is accurate. However, in addition to using fire, there is another way to escape. Wen Jiu, who was still looking for a way in the box, didn't know that he was under surveillance. Every scene in the room was seen by the masked man outside. They discussed and analyzed calmly while having people record the data. In order for the high quality seedlings in the base to maintain their level, in addition to completing all customized training, they also need to prove their value that is different from others. Gurgle. 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 As time passed by second, the water level in the box gradually approached the top. In this situation, Wen Jiu remained calm, and she kept groping and knocking on the outer wall. The masked man in front of the light curtain was even more disappointed because they didn't want to see the second situation happen. Wen Jiu seemed to be beating in the box without any rules, but in fact she was looking for the weak point on the outer wall. Dang dang. Dang. When the water in the box was about to be filled, she finally found the weak point of the outer wall. Wen Jiu floated to the top before the water was filled, took a few deep breaths, and then plunged into the water. Seeing this, the masked man standing outside frowned immediately. He was very dissatisfied with Wen Jiu's performance and just wanted to draw a red cross in the score column. The next second, the originally blue water suddenly filled with a faint crimson. Seeing this scene, he couldn't help but take 2 steps forward, and in the blink of an eye, he was splashed by the bursting water. Ha 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 ha. Wen Jiu, who had successfully escaped, lay at the bottom of the box. Her clothes were stuck to her body after being soaked by water, and even her hair was soaked into clumps. However, she only rested for a few seconds before standing up, and then tremblingly walked out of the broken box. Bright red blood continued to overflow from her fingertips, dripping onto the ground with every step she took. It was impossible to force her to use a deep sea blue flame. Do you really think she is so stupid that she can't even see this idea? Even if she didn't use the deep sea blue flame to burn the outer wall, she could use blood to draw talismans to break the broken box. It was quite difficult to draw talismans in the water, and she was also betting on whether she could succeed this time. Moreover, she was very happy to see the masked man suffer. Why should she be drowned alone and at a loss? She wanted to let this masked man also experience the feeling of being caught off guard and drowned. The masked man was soaked by the splashing water. It was obvious that he had not expected this to happen. Not only did he not expect it, but even the masked people who were not at the scene did not expect it. So did she use her supernatural power to burn the outer wall, or did she find a weak point and break it with force to escape? From the replay, it's neither of the two. These two methods will only make water flow out of the hole and will not explode directly like the screen. The masked people here were busy watching the replay and analyzing it, while the masked man in front of Wen Jiu was trying his best to be patient. Seedling number 99. It took 180 seconds to escape from the sealed box. The result of this assault training is. Hearing this, Wen Jiu also tried hard to hold back her laughter again. When she couldn't hold back her laughter just now, she found that the masked man seemed to want to electrocute her. But because she didn't do anything illegal, the masked man could only hold back his anger. It seems that these masked people called seedling nurses also have their own set of rules of conduct. As long as she doesn't violate the rules, the masked man can't punish her casually. In the end, the masked man gave her an A+. After all, she escaped within the specified time. According to the scoring standard, she had to get this score. If Wen Jiu is willing to show his value, he can get an S in this surprise test. After the masked man summoned the flame to dry his body, he announced the next training at a very fast speed. Collective training for high quality seedlings. Seedling number 99. Please follow the rules. It is forbidden to communicate with other seedlings, and it is forbidden to interact with other seedlings. Today's third update has also been delivered on time. Thanks again to the little angels for their support. Love you. 030. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.